Indian virtual roundtables, webinar conversations, largest virtual summit and awards across the media, entertainment, and AVGC industry over the last 20 years to ensure that it provides continued meaningful insights to markets, brands, agencies, and business from across the ecosystem. And we continue to grow with the Pubnation series. The pandemic has revolutionized the media and entertainment industry over the last year. It has not only led to the usage of new technologies, but enabled the creation of new business models to meet the evolving consumer demands. As we gear up for the post pandemic world, IndianTelevision.com invites digital publishers, technology platforms, brands, and advertisers from across the industry to share their learnings from the year gone by and discuss key trends leading the industry into the future. Being one of the fastest growing industries right now, we thought of putting together this forum to hear expert opinions, anecdotes, and tips from enthusiasts who want to be part of this industry. Before we move forward, we request you all to kindly check the agenda for the day on Pubnation 2021 website and check out the sessions planned out for the summit. This summit would not be possible without our media partners, that is telechakra.com, radio and music.com, and animationexpress.com. This event is produced and executed by ITV 2.0 Productions. Before we proceed, we also like to encourage our audience to share your questions and perspective on the day's proceedings on the chat box on our website and through your social media accounts. Don't forget to use the hashtag PubNation2021 in your post and tag our official handles. We can be found at ITV News with a Z on Twitter and Facebook, and IndianTelevision.com on Instagram and LinkedIn. On this note, I would like to welcome IndianTelevision.com's founder, CEO, and editor-in-chief, Mr. Anil Vanwari, to address our viewers and share his thoughts about this virtual summit. Over to you, sir.
Okay, can you take off my mug? All right. Digital is the new mecca. That's what. And for digital publishers, that's turned out to be the new saving grace. Where there's been a loss of revenues on print, and though it's coming back now, digital has kind of sustained a lot of publishers, whether it's video publishers or print publishers. It's really helped out a lot. And, will this continue? Those are questions. Will it heighten? Will it slow down? Will it plateau? Those are questions on everyone's minds. What's going to help it to increase? Is it technology? Is it the content that you're putting out? Is it the viewers? Is it the understanding of what viewers expect? Of course, all these things are necessary. And that's why we put together Pubnation to bring together a host of industry experts to come and figure out what's going on and what should we do going forward. And despite whatever everyone is saying, I'm a little bit of a pessimist as far as though the figures are optimistic. I'm a pessimist. I believe that inflation is going to hit us very soon. I don't know how long, but it's going to hit us. And secondly, we might be in for a few more hiccups as far as the pandemic is concerned. We're not totally through it as yet, because Europe is peaking now, is beginning to, the cases are rising. I don't know whether it's peaked as yet. And America is beginning to show rise in cases. And apart from that's the COVID coronavirus cases. And India lags behind these markets. Even the last time round, a couple of months later, we got a lot of infections coming in. And already, though it's not being announced as yet, a lot of neighbors around in the neighborhood are catching the coronavirus. Of course, they're not dying as many numbers as earlier, but definitely sentiment will at some stage slow down, unless, of course, we as a country have learned to accept the fact and we become fatalistic like ever, that life ends at some stage, and we'll go on living on and we'll live normally even if we lose people. I don't know what will prove to be true, but overall, so far the sentiments seem to be good. Forget my pessimism. I'd like to hear from the industry experts on what their perspective is. Where do they see the market going? Where do they see opportunities? Where do they see sort of seeds of growth coming up, despite whatever negativity I just spoke about? I'd really love to hear from all of them. Over to you, Dinal, to have the different panel discussions go on. Thanks.
Sure, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for your thoughts and putting together this initiative. Now, without much further ado, we begin with the first panel discussion of a day on rebirth and growth drivers for publishers in 2021. And for this session, I would like to welcome Mr. Amit Wadhwa, CEO, Dentsu Creative Group India, Mr. Prasad Sanyal, Chief Content Officer, HT Digital Streams Limited, Mr. Puneet Singhvi, CEO, Digital and President, Corporate Strategy, Network 18 Media and Investments Limited, Mr. Tanmay Mohanty, CEO, Publicis Media Services, Mr. Sunil Nair, CEO, India Region, Firework. And this session will be moderated by Mr. Vijay Anand Kunduri, Regional Vice President, OTT and CTV Pubmatic. I welcome you all and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you for introducing us and having us as a first panel to kickstart this series. I think Anil set the tone and he called out a couple of interesting things like digital new mecca. I'm happy to hear because it's good to see that digital has evolved and it's no longer an afterthought, which it was for quite a few years. Now, pandemic or last 18 to 20 months, we've seen everywhere, hey, business has been slow. But well, that's the fact. But the another fact which we have seen, there has been a lot of activity on it. They've been at the surface of calm surface. We've seen certain industry really lap it up and grow. And we've seen that in digital space, especially in terms of digital content consumption, in whether it's video streaming or using digital for edutech. So there has been a growth in edutech. And of course, the e-commerce, the way e-commerce accelerated in last 18 months, which also made many businesses relook, rethink their strategy, and also redefine their strategy to have been all-inclusive to ensure the fulfillment happens. While this panel, I'm joined by experts who have bring in a varied experience and a rich experience, and we will be looking at and they will be sharing. And as this panel is rightly titled, that we're looking at the rebirth and the growth drivers for the publishers. So joining me is the esteemed experts, starting with Amit. Amit is from Dentsu. We have Prasad from HT Digital, Tanmay, of course, from Publicis, and Sunil from Firework. Puneet couldn't make it because of some family emergency, so that's why you don't see him on the panel. But to get started, I would request each gentleman to quickly give a quick, brief introduction about yourselves, starting with you, Amit.
Thanks, Vijay. I think a lot of introductions already been done. I head the Dentsu Creative Services, which includes mainline agencies like Taproot, Dentsu Impact, Dentsu Megari Bhavan, which includes digital agencies like Dentsu Web Chutney, Isobar, What Consult, and the PR agency, which is Perfect Relations. So interesting times for us when we are talking about digital. Just gives me goosebumps because honestly, that's been the saving grace for the last couple of years. It's kept us buoyant and kept us reinventing ourselves. I am from the advertising industry for as long as I remember. For some reason, I started with research way back, and suddenly then I realized I'm not as smart and moved into advertising, and since then I've stuck around here. So yeah, thanks for having me here.
Thanks, Amit. Prasad, hi.
Hi, thanks for having me on this panel. I had all content for HT Media Group, as it were, digitally. And I think over the last 2 years, what has happened is the pandemic has forced us to accelerate our digital transformation journey. I think we were already on course. I think most publishers have just accelerated that journey, and it's been very exciting times for us, purely in terms of business and in terms of reinventing our processes, while, of course, we've had to deal with all the pressures that have emanated from the very, very unusual circumstances and unforeseen circumstances during the pandemic. So this is a very interesting discussion, and glad to be a part of this panel.
Thanks, Prasad. Hi, Tanmay.
Thanks, Vijay. I lead digital media and media services for Publicis in India. That means brands like Zenith, Starcom, or Sepen Treasureface, or growth of Epsilon in India. And this is probably my 20th year in digital media, specifically. And last 5 years, I've been heading media agencies for Publicis.
Thanks, Tanmay. And Sunil.
Hi, I head the Firework India business. We are a Silicon Valley-based startup which is providing publishers, direct-to-commerce companies, e-commerce, the opportunity of bringing short format and shoppable, swipeable videos and live stream capabilities onto their own and operated businesses. I've been on the video side for as long as I can remember, probably 15 years. 2006 is when we started up with a small startup that got acquired eventually. And I've been on the video space and I've seen it evolve from the point where VCs would refuse to put money on video, asking why would anyone in India watch video on a laptop, to a lot of money getting invested in this space. And I think this is probably the most exciting time for a market like India. While on one side there has been recession and the lockdown impacted GDP decline, but on the other side there's something close to about 700-800 million people who are now on their mobile phone and doing things on their mobile phone that one could not have imagined 10 years back. So happy to be on this panel and explore all the opportunities that are available.
Thank you, Sunil. I think it's going to be good to have different stakeholders of the ecosystem. And to get started, Prasad, I'm going to come to you first, right? Being the publisher. Now, pandemic, we all know, has made businesses relook, and publishers haven't been the ones who haven't been affected with it. So how have you guys relooked your business and realigned it, or probably reinvented your business models to the challenges which got thrown up? And also, do you see and how did you guys tap into the opportunity which came along, education or video, the surge we have seen in those two particular verticals?
Sure. So I think the biggest sort of change that the pandemic has forced on us is trying to look audience in rather than content out. I think publishers historically have always looked content out, and that's been a failing with all newsrooms, especially and publishers as a whole, right? So we've started looking audience in increasingly. The other, and what that has done as a domino effect is that it has forced us to change a lot of our workflows, and I think those changes are for the better. What the pandemic did was almost pressurized businesses into doing this faster. We would have gotten there maybe over a 24-month framework, but we got to that space in, let's say, a 6-month framework. So that's been the real accelerant, right? And especially with videos and education, right? The two verticals you mentioned. So with education, I think now we are looking at expanding our offerings significantly. At the HT Group, we've already got a platform for schools, which has now become a digital first platform where, of course, we are offering much more on the digital platform than we ever did on the print product. And on videos, traditionally with HT, you've been a print publisher where the focus has been on text. We've been able to pivot a lot of that focus and therefore a lot of resourcing on videos. And most would appreciate that videos is extremely resource intensive, but we've been able to pivot. We've been able to create new capabilities within the organization. And it's been difficult. It's not been the easiest of journeys, but I think over the next 6 to 8 months is when we will see a lot of that come to fruition, where capability restructuring would actually result in great outcomes.
Interesting, Prasad, you mentioned audiences, and I think that's been one of the areas where there's a conscious movement by all publishers to look into it. And of course, there has been also a kind of a forced move, and the walled gardens also have been playing on that thing. Now, staying with that particular thought of audience, you mentioned the role of audience data, but is it there yet? Because do you think all publishers are doing it? And Prasad, this is for you, and of course to everyone on the panel, because the audiences is something which is not necessarily unique to publisher. It touches everyone, whether it's a creator, a fit for purpose creative audiences, whether it's when you're doing a media planning, Tanmay, and of course, Sunil, when you're talking about a short form enablement, it's end of the day, we're all talking to audiences. So, Prasad, I would like to take your thoughts first and then go around the panel for hear what they think, how it's shaping up.
So I think different publishers are at different spaces or different sort of milestones in the journey of understanding audiences. What I would say is that I think all publishers, or at least the top 20 publishers, have significantly augmented their data gathering capabilities, their data understanding. Most newsrooms now have data engineering teams closely working with them, and they have a bunch of tools which allows them to have daily, weekly, monthly reports, right? So we increasingly we're gathering the data. Are we reading that data well? Can we do better? Of course, we can do better reading that data well. I think it's not a trait that comes naturally to publishers, but we're doing the right things. We're focusing on the right things, and a lot of the decisions are becoming data driven. And that data is influenced entirely by an audience in outlook, right? So we're getting the right tools. We're getting the right people. Where I think publishers are at different stages is their ability to interpret that data and therefore act on that data.
Yeah. Now, Prasad, when you mentioned about data, it's great. Of course, we also know there is a whole lot of responsibility that comes with it because of the PII and the GDPR things coming in. But staying with the audiences, Amit, how do you think that so much of a data-driven approach, has it started impacting the creativity, and has it started stifling your ability to do the storytelling?
So yeah, two questions on this one. So of course, Prasad used the word audience in, and I think it's the right approach. It is the approach that I think every brand for that matter should be using in. It's always been the case. I guess everyone's tried to do the audience in thing. That's why we used to read what the audience does, where do they reside, what do they do, what are their interests, and then create a communication and dole it out to them. But the understanding of that audience was very, very limited. We didn't have the avenues, we didn't have the data that we have now, and now it does not stop anywhere. It is continuous learning about exactly what the audience is about, and hence the understanding of this audience is getting richer by the day. The second part is, when you get this data, the other interesting part is how do you read the data, and more than read the data, how do you use the data? So I think the important and interesting part, and we are nowhere near absolutely completion there, but I think it is about now devising the content around what you've read, understood about the audience, and give it out to them in a way that they'll consume it better. So I think it was there. We used to do one single TVC, one simple press ad, basis our understanding of lakhs of people, and everyone used to read the same thing. Now we can actually understand, oh, this is one cohort which likes games, which one cohort likes something else, and we can create different contents for them and be a lot more relevant to these guys. Now, the second part of it, is it encouraging or is it stifling? It is doing both at the same time. It is stifling because you have to create hundreds, thousands of content pieces. It cannot be one single piece of communication created for lakhs and crores of people, and you're done and dusted. Not happening anymore. You have to be specific to these people. Only then you're being true to audience in, right? The second part is also very encouraging, right? It's also very, very encouraging because it gives avenues to do different things. That's what creativity is about, right? You want to do different things. You want to try different things. You want to reach people differently. And I think that's, for a creative person, it's a minefield, right? Which is an interesting minefield. So yeah, so that's where it is.
Amit, that's interesting because what you mentioned about the evolution and the emergence of different formats, whether it's snackable content or vertical videos and so on and so forth. Now that while you are coming with whole formats to meet the screen's requirement and audience requirements, I'm sure that puts up a huge challenge when someone like Tanmay and his team has to look at the media efficiencies. Now, Tanmay, from a media standpoint, when the two things, right? With multiple assets, how are you trying to work on the efficiencies? One, two, with the publishers really investing in audiences, do you think the brands and the media consultants or media agencies now open to look beyond the men in blue and the men in the red, the Facebooks and YouTubes, because that's where being there the plus point or the position of strength. So your thoughts?
Perfect, Vijay. I know when I was listening to Amit specifically, that came into mind. Okay, see how media agency looks at it. Media agency looks at it two ways. Agree? Either the top of the funnel or lower part of the funnel, which is more performance, more commerce, more. That's how we are looking. We have been looking at it. With publishers like what Prasad was talking about, the data and the audience they collecting now, given that where India is from that evolution point of view, where you don't have a single panel between TV and digital together still, it's become imperative for publishers to provide the data for the brands to plan for, because without planning that who you are reaching, when you want to reach, how many frequency you want to reach, you cannot invest the money. Or it's easier to invest in TV because there is something to do there. When you move into digital, at least on the top of the funnel, there has been quite, what I see in the market, quite a lot more publishers are open now to talk about sharing the data or using that data to help media agencies plan for their clients. The second part, which is what actually Amit was talking about, is the moments. The biggest problem is that we have been treating the way we plan and execute in TV the similar way in digital. Agree? That's not no more working. And what Amit was talking, and I think that's something we'll discuss as in the moment and the context at which the audience is in is when I want to deliver that message. That's what media agencies do. What is the best moment and how do you measure that? How do you report that is the moment. So our ability with data and the context that publishers provide, the biggest challenge still remains is that yes, you can get the 500 million people who have been in internet 2 years back. Now it's at 800 million, which is almost as equal to TV. Agree? Who can you get at what moment and how do you measure becomes still an addressable problem for most of our clients. And the third part, which is probably we have been talking for some time and when you connect, we generally talk about it, is that at what price you are delivering to your clients, what is the efficiency at which you are delivering that, and whether moving away from walled gardens and creating this sustainable media ecosystem out of walled gardens is a better thing. Yes, definitely. And that's how it should be.
Now, interesting, you talk about 2Cs and moment marketing, right? The context, the content, and the moment. Now, I have a question for you, Sunil. We have been seeing the trend and emergence of e-commerce and brands moving away from, hey, the usual belief is we need to have 3 exposures before you can really get your messaging down the funnel, but that has crunched to a single view, content to commerce in a single view, whether it's a video view or whatever session we're getting. How are you seeing that the formats which are far more engaging, not only the length of the asset, but how are you blending that with the length of the asset, the audiences on the platform, or whichever publisher you're working with, and how are you layering that interactivity seamlessly?
Right. So a couple of points that one needs to remember. You know, the audience that we are addressing right now is interacting with the content or consuming content more or less, or 93% of them, 94% of them are consuming it on their mobile phones. And when they arrive at any of the publishers' owned and operated assets, they are coming from a swipeable medium. They're either coming in from social media, or they are, spent a lot of time on a Tinder or a reel or whatever you have out there. And from there, when they land up on the on the publisher's page. More, it's the text and image which is which doesn't engage. So what we have been saying is that vertical full screen video that makes it possible for the first part, which is keeping the audience engaged within your owned and operated assets, and that's an important part. That gives a rich variety of data, a rich amount of data that you can really harness and harvest. And just talking on the data part, it's a lot of times we people from the technology media side want to tie data up and beat it up and extract a confession out of data, which is more or less what we want to hear. But the fact of the matter remains that things like personalization, things like if a publisher is going into the paywall side of the business, then what is it that you're providing? What's the kind of content? And what Amit said and Tanmay said is absolutely right. These are points that need to be addressed. Now, coming to the point where vertical videos and interactivity on part of vertical videos, I think what is happening is with live stream commerce that started in China and now is becoming big in the Western markets and is already here in India. That gives an opportunity for brand and publishers both to directly talk to the audience, which is outside of the walled garden. Because for the last 10 years, the walled gardens have kind of suffocated the publishers from zero data to basically throttling, whatever is possible as a equal exchange amongst peers. But here there is a possibility of you to be able to talk to the audience, sell, get into e-commerce. And that is something which is beginning to show a lot of promise in India. In other parts of the world, I think they are a little ahead of the curve. So let me stop here in terms of saying that vertical video, swipeable video, shoppable video is something which is far more engaging, and we are seeing enough amount of traction in terms of the sales that are happening out there, the engagement that's happening. I mean, the engagement that is not possible on a banner, which is a static banner where it will be less than 3 or 4 seconds that you spend. Here, people are spending multiple video views, 30-second videos, 8 to 9 videos in one session. And that's a lot of data and a lot of traction that you're getting out there.
Yeah. Now, Sunil, you just made a very interesting point there. With and we all know the India is mobile first market. It's almost an extended organ of humans, all of us, and of course it's a huge space and lean into that with data and interactive formats, coupled with the huge user base or the consumers we have online. Now, this is where wanted to come back to you, Tanmay. Do you see online video, which we see in a surge across different aspects of online video? I'm just talking about video. I am not going down to say, hey, OTT or CTV. I'm just saying video as a. Do you see it's arrived where it's bigger than TV? Because some of the consumers you find there may no longer be available on a traditional appointed viewing or traditional linear TV. That's one. If yes, do you think India is right up there, or what's the landscape and how that could really start helping traditional publishers to harness this switch towards a planning approach?
Perfect. So let's look at the ADEX, how it has moved in last 2-3 years. That will give us a fair bit of context. See, right now digital is hovering around 35+% in the market. Okay, if you take everything that total ADEX, out of which what we see is that probably video advertising, leave YouTube and Facebook. I'm leaving them out of this discussion because they are, just the programmatic video spending is almost 30% of the total spend that now happens in the market. Okay, now if that's quite a lot when I compare that and divide that between multiple OTTs, and not just saying that the biggest probably Netflix or Amazon is still not monetizing the way they should be, but rest everybody. And if you really look at it, and that's the most important point, how I look at it, most of the free AVODs are still doing very well when it comes to monetization. Where we are not able to monetize and where we are not able to support them is when we don't get enough measurement from those platforms. But almost 8.5% of total ADEX going to online video advertising out of TV and everything left together is a big amount of money. Plus, if you see last 2 years, it's almost jumping 200% year on year, the spend. That growth is where it is going to be. I think after e-commerce, that's the second largest growing part of the ADEX.
Now, sorry, go ahead.
Vijay, can I just jump
Yeah.
into this? I mean, Tanmay spoke a very important part. I mean, programmatic video is growing in leaps and bounds, and that's something that's an easy opportunity which is there for monetizing the videos. But there are aspects of video which a publisher has to look at, which is not there only as a programmatic pipe that is coming in, and you're matching the supply and demand. What's made available right now is, and a lot of publishers that I talk to in India are thinking in those lines, and maybe Prasad can also enlighten us about that, is looking at video from the point of view of purely editorial content or branded content. Including HT, has got a brand solutions team, and all of them are, not utilizing videos at the moment the way it would be. It's only dependent upon programmatic. I think the opportunity on video for publishers is 3-4 times what is currently being seen, because that branded solutions, which used to be text and images for a very long time, or a publication that is putting together a very engaging webinar, or a festival on jewelry, things like Condé Nast and the others who do that. All of them now make it possible to have a real engagement and real sale, if you want that to go that far, using videos. I think that part is something that somehow gets discounted when we talk about video. It is measurable. Tanmay will be very happy to say that that's measurable. There are very clear monetization mechanisms out there. So I think that needs to be really looked at. So in true sense, from where we are today, from programmatic video to maybe 3 or 4 times that is what the potential is if you open it up entirely.
Yeah. So Sunil, I think you seem to have read my mind, because that's something I was trying to put up to Prasad. And now, Prasad, I think we, as you know, we have seen video really, being a growth catalyst across last 18 months now. From coming from a pure digital publication, traditional, and having a host of real estate like Live Mint, Hindustan Times, Desi Martini, and of course, I did see the OTT Play, which is about the recommendation. I do see HT trying to, but how are you really marrying video and making your content more snackable, if I have to use that term, because videos are short forms like Sunil company facilitates is helping them to create that snackable content. What's the HT's thought there? How are you really tapping onto this for the next growth? And do you see as a next growth? That's the other question, not that we want to force you on something believing in that.
So, okay, let me answer this 2 ways. We are trying to make all our content more snackable, not just videos, because we see that trend exist across formats. It is to do with attention spans more than anything else. So it's not format specific on the snackable part of it, right? On the videos part of it, while we experiment with different formats, for us, I think the last 18 odd months has been a transformation in capability building, where we've built up our capabilities significantly in generating video content or being able to think video first with a lot of the content. To Sunil's point, where do we still think in the very conventional framework of brand studio or branded content or just editorial videos? Sure, because I think that's you go to your comfort area first, right? It's like McDonald's doing 5 kinds of burgers first before trying to put a biryani on their menu. So it's effectively that, right? And I think monetization formats, all publishers are looking at. And very frankly, I think most publishers are scratching their heads on monetization formats, because a lot of the monetization currently comes from the walled gardens, where you have little or no control over the monetization. And your ability to invest in videos significantly goes up if you can monetize the same content in 4 or 5 ways, which we've been able to do with our other formats. But with videos, it's been a bit of a grind, very honestly. So are there capabilities that exist, for example, to make sales? Sure, there are, but it is a marriage that has been uncomfortable, or that has proved uncomfortable so far for not just Hindustan Times, but with most publishers. But I see some making more rapid strides than others in trying to close that gap, and in coming out with platforms that allow you to do that, which is slightly perhaps outside the traditional boundaries of an editorial framework for content.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting, Prasad, you made a point there about monetization, because that's show me the color of money. It's always going to be important for all of us, and also talk about different formats. Now, we last year we did a survey with Kantar to understand how consumers perceive a branding communication in a premium professional content as compared to a non-professional, and it was obvious that people have a far more trust. The brand uplifts and recalls are higher in a premium placed in a premium environment. When it's monetization, it also tends to have an effective communication, because end of the day, it's how you communicate that. And that brings me back, Amit, back to you. Monetization, creativity, 6 second, 15, 30, 45, right? And I have to throw in with the screens, further throw in the interactivity. How do you see that? And it has to, and of course, the growing programmatic pipes, the programmatic. So, yeah.
So it's complex to answer it shortly, but the reality is, so first of all, I think why video, and because we've been talking video, I think video is a win-win, right? Video is a win-win because for an audience, that is the most engrossing. You are seeing it, you are hearing it, and I am far more engrossed in it. Similarly, it is a win-win for a brand to be in a video, because what you can communicate through visual and audio together is a lot more than what you can communicate it through just an audio medium or just a static medium. So hence, I think videos are a gold mine as far as communication is concerned, as far as audiences are concerned. So hence, video is the big deal. But usually what we do is when we talk about digital as a medium, there is one brush stroke. Acha, we want to go digital, but the digital medium is so diverse. Unlike, say, a TV or a print or any of the other mediums, it's so diverse that there is a 6-seconder, there is a 30-seconder also, there is a 7-minuter also, there is, of course, the OTT of 30-minuters and to long formats. So if you just look at the whole diversity of digital, I think it is complicated, it is complex, but that's the beauty of it. But what digital has done on the traditional medium is also very interesting. So traditional medium is not gone, it's not dead. So TV and print and all is absolutely there. What it does is it puts a lot of pressure, which is a good thing, a lot of onus, because I'm putting a certain amount of money on TV and print. This better work because this is, there is an alternate medium there, which is actually giving you more measurability and everything. And hence what we are now putting it on TV and print is a lot more research, a lot more sure, you put it out there. When it comes to digital, it is complex, but it is also a play field. Digital is the medium where you can actually fail and fail fast, and then come back again with something else and hit it out of the park with the next one. And I think, yes, it does get complicated. Like I said, there is a 6-seconder rule. There is a 30-second rule. There are enough and more rules. Possibly, I don't know all the rules also by now. And as we move along, there are some new rules being formed there. But that's the interesting part. I think creative is about doing new things, and this medium just gives you the opportunity to do new things.
No, that's nice, because what you said, it's the existence of these mediums in silos is no longer there. And as I said, it's not digital is not an afterthought. It's become more integral and more seamless thing. And you rightly said it's complex. But Tanmay, you alluded to it, and in fact, Sunil also alluded to it earlier about the video being programmatic enablement, and then more and more buys happening programmatically. Now, having said that, do you really see there, because there's a constant feedback, or what we hear is, hey, there's no enough premium inventory. Is that a reality? Do you think there's a lack of premium inventory, or it's that probably we are not necessarily seeing everything coming through the programmatic pipes, because there is the reservation buys or IOs buys still prevalent? So this, Tanmay, for you, and Sunil, I would love to hear your viewpoints on this as well.
So you're right, Vijay. So if you see from a premium content point of view, I'm not going to talk about premium. The premium content is, for most brands, is brand safe. So it's easier to take that decision to be associated with it. Like the TV, whether you talk about sports or talk about some of the big events like Big Boss. The biggest problem that happens in digital is that most times we don't have enough data to plan for it. Agree? Whether you talk about mobile phone, like Sunil was talking about, or connected TVs you are talking about, and who is watching, when they are watching it. So definitely the biggest challenge, and you are correct in saying that, is the premium content able to drive the amount of advertising or media money or advertising money behind it. But over a period of time, I think a lot more clients now open, and we have been discussing that, is that open to at least associating that content. May not be through advertisement, maybe through some way of connecting with that content or being associated with content. The bigger problem is that dissemination of the content without a platform owner, whether it is HT or other OTTs. Okay? The dissemination becomes a bigger problem for us still. And what most clients still struggling with is the legacy thought of how they associate that in TV and not in digital. It's easy to put a Facebook post and promote it. Agree? Get shares and likes. It talks quite a lot about a creativity of it. But when it comes to content, that is the part which goes missing still.
Sunil, your thoughts? Anything you would like to add here?
I think Tanmay's point about brand safety is very important. But that's probably the reason why short format platforms, which are more or less walled gardens, are finding it difficult in terms of monetization. There is monetization happening, but that's happening in bursts, in small pack sizes, if you were to use that term. Now, with the publishers in particular, I mean, it's one of those opportunities which is impossible to ignore. And let's say, I mean, they own the content, they have the moderation capability, which no OTT or no user-generated content platform can have. Imagine a HT putting out videos out there in the short format, in live stream and all of that, which is completely moderated by people who are experts in the field, and then being able to monetize it in whichever way. I think that level, that whole bogeyman that has been created of user-generated content running away with the story is just that. I mean, it's not something which is it's democratization of content and all that is good to hear in terms of in large articles that and that a VC might put out, or an editorial piece in the New York Times. So the reality is that brands don't want to put content on user-generated content, and therein is the opportunity that publishers have in terms of taking the lead and providing that content that the consumers will have. I mean, what we need to remember is consumers have got attention deficit problems right now. We humans have reached the point where we've got the attention span of a goldfish, which is probably 15 seconds. So you need to rethink in terms of what you're telling out there in 15 to 30 seconds, because we on the platform see a major drop after the 22nd second. 30-second video, 20 seconds, 22 seconds later, the drop is steep. So storytelling, I mean, the excuse that is said is you can't tell a story in 30 seconds. Of course, you can tell a story in 30 seconds. Amit's entire agency has been doing it for the last 40 years, creating 30-second TVCs and selling everything from chocolates to cars. So it's really a relook at that mindset and opening yourself up to the ability. And that's something I think it's going to be more collaborative with platform providers like us and the publishers talking to each other more often, and publishers opening up their minds to accepting the fact that maybe we know something a little more than what they've been doing traditionally.
Yeah, no, it was good you mentioned about the popular thought, hey, human memory is about goldfish, because we've all seen it's not necessarily true. And as you said, each asset length has its own KPI, it works, and different emotions can be evoked through that. Tanmay, I'm just going to come to you because there is something. While we spoke about video and we've seen the growth, unfortunately, there is this thing, and we're seeing the walls getting away from different mediums, print or TV or a radio or electronic. However, within online video, there seems to be a kind of a boundaries of walls creeping up in terms of, OTT, CTV, online video, in-stream, out-stream, some are important. Why we are not looking at video asset and asset? And then we all talking about audiences. We are talking about, Amit spoke about how beautifully that different assets, different screens gives them an ability to and flexibility to communicate that story. However, when it comes down to brands, when it comes to the planning, it comes down to, I only want OTT. That's a flavor, because everyone wants to be OTT. Let's be OTT. Let's be CTV. The reality is, if it's a medium is video, why we are not looking at video and suddenly start dropping some of the other formats or other touch points as hot potatoes?
I think, Vijay, the problem is in actually three parts. Okay. The first part, and that's most of the clients struggle with, is that and I was talking about it, is that how do I assess the efficacy of some of these mediums and how do we measure constantly that and improve on it? Okay. That's a system, I think the legacy have not taught us how to do that in TV. The second part, and this is where the problem starts coming in when it comes to mostly brands trying to solve their problems. They see that most of the long-term or big content creation that happens in the market by every type of video, I'm not just talking OTT like you said, okay, there seems to be gone missing is that content, it's free, and I need to associate with through my advertisement, through my communication, through my message. And that publishers are not communicating enough to media agencies or brands. And the third and the largest problem of all of this is that client still wants to look at how do I plan for the people I can reach. There is no way in this country still that we can't plan for that. If you can't plan for that, most clients are not ready to put the money. Agree? Because if you can't, I know it works well. My client knows it works well, but how do you plan for it? And that's the thing that I think publishers have to come together to solve for.
So Tanmay, if I take two things, right, transparency and measurement will help that way. I'm going to go across to publisher on the panel here, Prasad. All right, some of the questions I've been asking purely based off my earlier experience as a publisher. Now, when a brand, there's a money on the table, creative are helping, but the question is transparency and measurement, right? And then of course we've seen, I think we have just about 1 minute. I'll just rush to you. So while we do this, we've seen the publishers still focus taking, am I getting an echo? So publishers are not, they prefer result buys, IO buys, not necessarily embracing programmatic. Now, programmatic brings that transparency, the data benefit, and also the solutions like header bidding, because when you're giving header bidding, you're not doing a waterfall, you're giving everyone a fair chance. And in the process, you're increasing the yield and the value of your inventory and the real estate. But where do you think is that missing piece or the missing link, and how do you see that moving forward?
So I think very quickly, because we are out of time,
Yeah.
within programmatic, right? You will see more and more publishers embrace header bidding. I mean, it's already happened with the bigger publishers. You will see that trickle down effect very, very soon, where it hasn't happened. But within, I think, the header bidding module, or even within the overall programmatic piece, I think there needs to be a certain segmentation, or call it preferred or privileged programmatic if you want to, where the sales teams of the publishers are able to offer that to clients in a more meaningful manner, where publishers can themselves track the output, the outcomes can be tracked by an agency or a media planner, the outcomes can be tracked by a client. And I think that makes it more meaningful. With a lot of the programmatic panels, what happens is data collection is not systematic or unified still. And because of the whole lot of democratization, I think flaws are driven down consistently, and we have to work on getting some sort of equilibrium between various categories of programmatic, or create more subclasses within that.
Great. Thank you, Prasad. I think we just over the time, but just to thank you, gentlemen, for a very engaging conversation. I think we would have loved to carry on. And also, while we've seen it was more skewed towards video predominantly, because that's something which we have seen has been growing. E-commerce, edutech has been, but again, edutech has gone the video. And it's interesting, we ask kids to stay away from the video, but now they are on that screen consuming their education. But some of the takeaways, if I have to kind of sum up, as Prasad said, the audience is the move forward, the embracing programmatic, or more importantly, the solutions like header bidding, which helps to address some of the questions that we brought about measurement, transparency, would move. And again, while what we see in the so-called silos getting demolished, and the change or move away from the traditional creative content to the digital, it's actually seamlessly integrating, and then the digital being an opportunity to be experimenting. And along with that has been emergence of a paywall, which Sunil alluded to. Unfortunately, we could not dwell deep on that. But the fact is, there is quite a clear signs of growth factors and then this is not necessarily seasonal in nature. What we see is has become a habit, and this will continue to grow, and this could be an opportunity. And as we move forward, we'll start seeing further diversification and helping this grow further. But thank you, gentlemen, once again for your views, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you everyone for such an insightful discussion. And once again, I would like to encourage all our viewers to share your questions for the sessions on the chat box. Coming up next is an interesting panel discussion on personalization and monetization through technology. And for this session, I would like to welcome Mr. Akshay Gulati, co-founder and COO, Strategy Global Expansion, ShipRocket, Mr. Ankit Kumar, Director Products, Simply Learn, Mr. Ishan Bose, CMO, Credit B, Mr. Nilesh Halde, Head of Products, Pay Nearby, Mr. Rohit Dosi, Director, Microsoft Advertising, Business, Mobi, Mr. Vipul Kedia, Chief Data and Platforms Officer, Head, Mars Afe. This session will be moderated by Mr. Anil Banwari, Founder, CEO, and Editor-in-Chief, IndianTelevision.com. I welcome you all, and over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Tina. I'd like to add a caveat to all my co-panelists here and panelists here. I'm a student of this sector. So please, any faux pas, please forgive me. I hope we all are students. We're really learning this sector greatly now. So I'd like to begin by asking you all, without wasting any time, by asking you all, one tech solution or one innovation in recent times in publishing, which has excited you all. One of each of you has to give me one. One innovation which has excited you all, as related to personalization and monetization for your brand or for your clients. Beginning with Rohit.
First of all, thank you. It's good to be here and good to be a part of this panel. I think a lot of innovations have happened, right? But I think the way brands are now using the new age technology, right? Whether it comes to reaching out to their audiences, we've seen influencer marketing go out in a big way, right? And how brands are now using influencers to reach out to their audiences. That is very unique, and that has recently caught my attention, and I think it is going to be a big thing going forward.
That's more of a kind of a influencer driven. I'm talking about a tech solution or a tech innovation.
Yeah, so it's more, see, how you bridge technology is primarily through data and personalization, right? Which is also the key theme of this discussion, right? And I think, technology that can kind of, build a larger audience from the current data audiences that is available is something which is very innovative.
Okay, great. Ishan, you must be using a lot of the publishing platforms to get more customers to take loans from you all.
Correct. So, well, firstly, thank you so much for the warm introduction and good to meet all the panelists here. So, well, on to your question about one innovation on technology that we have seen has worked for us in the recent past is primarily data-driven underwriting and upgrades. So, I mean, that's something that's the fountainhead of our solution overall, wherein we identify different data points or variables from the users from different data sources. And then basis that we use a rule engine basis which we are able to kind of allocate certain scores to the users, and onto it we are able to kind of identify what's the credit limit that we want to provide to the end users. So that's something that we have been building on over a period of time, and lately what we have seen is that we have been able to amplify our overall reach largely basis the personalization of credit, as well as the way in which the process is defined in the overall product flow basis the profiles of the users. So A, it's the underwriting, and B, it's the product and process flow which we have been able to customize basis the data points that we identify from the user, and it has really helped us scale our overall reach and acquisition.
But has the data been granular enough for you to be actually reach down to accurate personalization, or is it Google's talking about flock and all that, cohorts. They're talking about moving away from, and Apple's coming up with its own solution. So has the data been granular, or have you been guesstimating and estimating?
So it's not been granular to the individual level, definitely, but it's definitely been granular largely to a mini cohort level, wherein we are able to. So earlier our cohorts were primarily on the RFM matrices, but now we have also been able to inculcate a lot of demographic parameters, geographic parameters, interest parameters, their engagement parameters on our platform. So basis all of that, we have been able to granularize cohorts to that extent, and then we could define flows, we could define rules basis each of that, and that has really helped us not just in our acquisition, as I said, but also in the quality of lending that we do.
Fantastic. So Vipul, over to you.
Everyone.
Yeah.
So I think from our perspective, being more a platform which is helping advertisers meet their requirements, I think the new age inventory formats which are coming in through newer connected devices like your audio devices, like connected TVs, etc. I am most excited about those things because I think those are going to change the way advertising is happening, and those are going to change the way users are interacting with different kinds of content and getting to what they want. So personally, I see that as an exciting and a growing space.
That's actually a kind of a way of addressing audiences. All right, but a tech, an ad tech or martech I'm talking about.
So from an ad tech perspective, I would agree with Ishan that it is essentially the extent of data and the way the data-driven technologies are evolving, which is helping us drive more sharper targeting, track users in a more generic way, at the same time maintaining deeper intelligence about the users so that we can get to them using various media channels. So the omnipresence of data and the ability to generalize data across various channels is, I think, the way that advertising is going to be driven going forward.
Okay, great. Nilesh?
Hey, hi everyone. So I'll give example of innovation which we have done at our end. We are India's largest agency banking platform, where we serve consumer with financial products, or largely banking products, right? And this happens through banking correspondents, which are typically small retailers who really don't have credit scores, and they do need working capital for their core businesses. So, I mean, based on the transaction patterns what we have, so we have around 750 odd data points of our own retailers, right? With the data science and analytics, we really could come out with a scorecard, our own scorecard, for these retailers, knowing exactly what they are doing, what is their risk profile, what kind of customers they are serving, how many are repeat customers, what kind of a services customers are doing with them, right? If customer chooses to park money with that retailer, definitely the customer trusts that retailer. So a lot of geographical data with every transaction we capture lat long, and many other data points, right? So we came out with our own credit score or parallel to credit score for these agents. And while we definitely trusted our credit score, but the best part of it is one of the largest NBFCs in the country came forward and partnered with us to fund these retailers for their working capital. And that model has been successful now. And that's pretty interesting way of doing personalization and mining data and analyzing data and giving right products to retailers. So
did you acquire the data and personalization data across publishing platforms, or did you have this through a data warehouse?
We have our own set of data which we generate, right?
But these individuals, I'm talking about these individuals. So
yeah.
Did you acquire it by putting ads out on Times of India or on other publishing platforms, or how did you acquire this data? I mean, or did you buy through a data warehouse of possible
No, we don't.
followers?
We don't buy data, and it's not acquired through any other channel. These are our own retailers transacting with us on our platform. For
they haven't come through a third-party platform. They haven't come.
No, absolutely. Okay. No.
All right.
These are all captive audience.
Okay. Yeah, because we are trying to figure out how publishing platforms can provide better services to advertisers, and what are the innovations. So this is your in-house kind of a product.
This is in-house innovation, but essentially what the point I wanted to drive is, like I said, 750 odd data points or the parameters of 5 million registered retailers on our platform. Now this data is there, and publishers can definitely make use of this data through our platform.
So you're willing to share this data with?
Not share. We can
do targeted campaigns on their behalf.
Targeted campaigns
for other advertisers, potential advertisers. Okay. So you're coming out like a publishing platform yourself now, and selling inventory on or targeting these people individually.
True.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Nilesh. Akshay?
Hi, thank you again for this opportunity, Anil. Basically, Shiprocket is not a publisher. We're not an advertising platform. We're an e-commerce logistics tech company. And for us, our primary goal is to be able to help our clients deliver products successfully and increase their ROI. And I
totally understand what Shiprocket is.
So what we've done, so I'm just setting the context, is we're not a publisher. And for us, the personalization as far as data is concerned what's been critical is that most publishers and most companies today in e-commerce have been optimizing their campaigns across publishers basis something called an successful order. And given that 40 to 50% of orders in India happen on cash on delivery, there's a large percentage of these orders which actually don't get delivered. So when you think about the perspective of the e-commerce retailer, whilst their campaigns keep on optimizing on these publishers on the basis of an order being placed on the website, and that order might actually not be delivered, what we've developed is some really cool technology around being able to build send success metrics back to the company, to our customer, and then to the publishing platform to be able to actually optimize campaigns on successfully delivered orders, because that's where the metrics actually...
Can you repeat that? It went a little over my head.
Sorry. So, for example, let's say a cash on delivery order doesn't. You get that order. Someone comes to your house and you say, "I don't want it. Either I don't have the money right now. Take it back. I don't want it anymore. I wanted it then." That's actually a bad outcome for the retailer, right?
Absolutely.
Because they spend the money acquiring the customer and the product's coming back. But most publishing platforms will just optimize that as a successful order because the order actually got placed. doesn't matter whether the order got delivered.
Whether there was a fulfillment or not, they don't care.
Exactly. And the retailer will only make money if the order gets fulfilled. Otherwise, it's actually a total loss. You spend the money acquiring the customer and you got the product back. And we now have a really cool tech to be able to send data back to the retailer and then to the platform to optimize campaigns based on successful deliveries. And that completely aligns the end objective of the retailer, which is selling the product, and being able to optimize an actual ROI rather than on just successful click, because you don't have to put any credit card information or pay.
So how does it work on Amazon, for instance? You're also fulfilling orders on behalf of individual small entrepreneurs, etc., and also on Amazon and other platforms. So if I, as a customer, I always pay by credit card, and I've hardly returned out of 600 orders, I may have returned one because it was a defective order. Yep. So how does it work with ShipRocket? As far as the retailer is concerned, will you then target campaigns at me more, but I'm buying different products. I'm buying books, I'm buying massagers, I'm buying medicines, I'm buying different products. So how do you do that?
So basically, since we're sector agnostic and we don't actually sell the products ourselves, we have a lot of data around customers and knowing what customers. So there could be categories of products that you potentially, and you're, I guess, one of those few good customers where you have 600 prepaid orders and you only return one. But there are categories where people actually take a lot of deliveries of products, and there are categories which are impulse categories where they don't actually deliver. So we actually can tell the retailer that, if the retailer is selling products in X category, do not offer cash on delivery, only offer a prepaid mode of payment, because there's a high chance if you don't, this order will come back. And we enable that checkout to actually take away the cash on delivery option from there. And while some of this tech has existed globally, in India, we were the pioneers doing this. And that increases ROI on publishing campaigns by almost 5x when you look at real ROI, when you kind of start measuring things this way. Amazon already does this, right? Because Amazon is the retailer, right? As the marketplace, they are taking the orders there, and most of the deliveries are being done by them anyways through their own networks. So they already use all of this data for their own optimization. The problem is this data hasn't been available till now to the person directly selling to the consumer, because they don't have this millions of data points to be able to take these calls. Because at the end of the day, the worst outcome for a seller is that you take away cash on delivery from the checkout and the order doesn't come to you, because that's a bad outcome. So that's where we're really using personalization from a customer behavior perspective to help optimize ads and publishing.
Fantastic. So what you said, so the innovation is, which was a technological innovation, being able to, which impressed you in recent times?
So which impressed me in recent times, actually, if you ask me, the biggest technological information is having the data infrastructure to be able to do these to crack these billions of data points, which was not possible 3 years ago. And the one thing I don't know if it's a tech innovation, but it's a tech infrastructure innovation. Platforms like Jio coming in and putting a smartphone in everyone's hand. I think that was a turning point for Indian e-commerce, and it's changed the game. So for me, that was the biggest innovation that I've seen in the last 3 years.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to ask you another question. So let me just get my notes out, because as I said, I'm a student and I learn from you all as I go along, and I hope we learn from each other. See,
absolutely.
Yeah, there are two core aces that publishers hold. One is content, the other is consent. So producing engaging content helps wins user engagement and loyalty, while user-centric consent increases the chances of building trust and getting permission to collect and use much sought-after first-party data. But there are limitations on the data you can collect, and because of privacy concerns, there's less and less information you can collect. Whereas social media doesn't have these limitations. So I'm going to ask whoever wants to come up with an answer about this. They don't have as much limitations as the publishers do. The publishing platforms like the newspapers, magazines, retailers. It's permission anyway. I've already given consent because I'm a ratified customer over there. But social media doesn't have. So is it a great way to monetize for brands and for publishers as well, to use social media to monetize whatever audiences they have? If you get what I mean.
So let me kind of put some thoughts from my side over there. So interestingly, I mean, I was just like I even put out a thought article on this as well, that technologies like blockchain can actually lead to the personalization to the next level, where the individual himself or herself will be in control of their data and they will be able to monetize it, right? So right now what happens is that if I give my permissions to a particular app, let's say a ClickBuzz or an Amazon or any app which I use very regularly, right?
Or a subscriber-driven platform could be
Exactly,
premium content on New York Times or wherever.
Exactly. So where I'm providing some details by myself, and then there is certain inadvertent data, like let's say what's the kind of engagement I do on the platform, or how many times I open the app in a particular, and so on and so forth. So the voluntary and involuntary data put together becomes a very decent persona that can be sold to any publisher or any ad network, which can be eventually monetized by advertisers, right? So now that's where the challenge is from a consumer standpoint, because I am giving a lot of data, I am the one who's being pushed a lot of ads, but I'm not
benefiting from it. I'm not benefiting it from Facebook. Facebook should be paying me for posting. Instagram should be paying me for posting.
Yeah, because it's my data at the end of the day.
Yeah, right? my content, not my data, my content and my data.
Yes, my content and my both, and that together becomes a very strong persona. So A, that's something that I'm not able to monetize. B, I'm not even in control of it. So I mean, I don't mind being shown ads, because at the end of the day, as a consumer, I also want to explore what's out there. But the problem is that right now it's being indiscriminately sold to different publishers, to different ad networks, and then via that to the advertisers, and there is no control that I have over it, right? So via blockchain, we can actually solve these issues, where the intermediaries can be cut out of the picture, and I could A, monetize my data to the extent that I want, and B, I could also have a control that to whom I want to expose and how much, right? So that's one thing that I believe really would.
Do you have a solution for this? Do you have a token or something which you're planning?
No, we are not planning anything right now. It's still something which is very nascent in the current ecosystem. Of course, bats and all are there, which are coming out. But then again, it's not the markets are not mature enough right now, which can really, which can really help or enable advertisers and publishers and even consumers to kind of do that. But then that's the directional view that a lot of ecosystems are taking across the globe, and probably in the next 3 to 5 years we might see a decent change, and that might put a lot of challenge to the platter of the intermediary ad networks and the programmatic exchanges and all that. How are they going to sustain if there's more decentralization and more control to the hands of the end user?
Come on, guys, you'll have to jump in now. He's thrown a cat among the pigeons. Who's going to respond?
No, so I think I'll go.
Yeah.
I think at least from an India point of view still, right? I think users are sharing their data, right? I mean, some of it is, there is some lever that has come in, right? Where at least there is a thinking happening that users to opt in, right? With what Apple has done, let's say, right? Still hasn't come to Android, but India primarily being an Android ecosystem, right? So the data is still out there, right? Eventually, all of us agree that we will be moving into probably a few years down the line into a setup where the user will have full control of his or her data, right? So I think the platforms out there have already started thinking about it. But then while all of that has happened, right, we cannot also deny the fact that, the advertising platforms out there have been there for years, right? So there is already probabilistic conversion modeling, etc., right, happening at all ends, right? And then ultimately it comes to either users or the brands, right, in terms of how much personalization they want, how much deep they want to go down into the conversion funnel to finally figure out the end goal, right? If you kind of want to go really niche, there are technology and platforms out there that might be able to solve for some of it. But if you don't kind of want to get into user privacy and all that stuff, then probably there are other things that are available. So I think I would say it is still going to be broad, at least for the few years. But then publishers or platforms such as are open to working out with brands to figure out their individual data strategies, right, and suggest them and be as consultant in terms of what is best for them, right? But then at some point in time, it's the decision of the users and the brands in terms of how much personalization and targeting they want to do.
Yeah. Anyone else wants to throw their hat in the ring?
I think largely when we talk about personalization and monetization, we are still looking at people like us, right? But there is huge set of marginalized people, right, who are not there on digital platforms. I mean, for them, digital platform, although Geo happened, for them, digital platform is limited to ABC, astrology, bikini, and cricket. You know what I mean, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Astrology, Bollywood, and cricket. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for correcting. Anyway, so I mean that's their presence, and what kind of a personalization you can do about these people, if at all some brands or publishers wants to target these people with astrology, Bollywood, and cricket, right? So that's marginalized people who are rarely there on social platforms. Their digital presence is not much. They don't buy online. So, I mean, it's going to be a challenge for brands or the manufacturer to reach that set of people. Believe me, I mean, around 450 odd million WhatsApp users in this country, only 80 million odd transact on UPI, right? So what about rest all people? I mean, publishers needs platform to reach out to these people. And honestly speaking, these guys are not skeptical about giving consent, sharing their data. I mean, these are all, you know, we all are greedy people, right? I mean, brands definitely looks at our data, gives us offers, personalized offers, but what about these people? So there is definitely an opportunity lies there to address these people. And I believe our platform is there wherein, you know, we are serving these people and a lot of insights, a lot of data points we have on those customers. So yeah, I mean, very interesting point is we also need to look at Bharat rather than India, right? When it comes to personalization and monetization.
Yeah, but then you have the short video platforms, made in India short video platform, which are addressing that Bharat, right? The social media, again, they're working like social media, like Instagram is one of the most engaging
today. Again, I mean, largely their content consumption would be ABC. Let me come back to that, right? Sure. And very less profiling you can do with the kind of content they are consuming, right? So if we know what transactions they are doing, what's their income, I mean, what do they do? You know, when it comes to their money, what do they buy? So that's going to be an interesting data to do profiling, to do personalization, and then publishers can reach out to them with the targeted content.
Yeah, Akshay, you haven't spoken.
Well, I haven't spoken because, again, like I said, very little experience on the publishing side. But again, one thing I will agree on is that a lot of users, what we see on our platform, they give us complete consent to use their data as long as we don't misuse it and spam them, right? They want personalization, they want offers, they want different products to be sent to them, different content to be shared with them. But the moment you start spamming, it's one thing that we realize is users are not happy doing it. And that's where we work very closely with our retailers who are our customers to make sure that they're aware of what's happening. Laws have changed very significantly in being able to promote data privacy. But the moment, what we've realized is the moment you abuse and spam, as you lose your credibility as a partner. And
but you don't ever use it to partner with certain brands to push, like Amazon's a great platform which uses its large inventory to push products out to people. So you're never going to use to push out certain products?
We do. No, absolutely we do. But we use it to promote products with the same. So if you're a customer of XYZ brand that works with ShipRocket, we use it to promote products, personalized suggestions for the same brand, right? We don't do it across brands because at the end of the day, whilst the user has given us consent to use the data, they are the brand's customers. So we do not abuse the data by cross-selling it, etc. Whereas in Amazon, they own the buying platform at the end of the day, right? The customer's coming to Amazon. Whereas in our case, the customer comes to our consumer's website. So for us, it's all cross-selling here is all about the same brand's products.
But I can also go to ShipRocket and I can also do things on ShipRocket, right? I went to ShipRocket.
Yes, absolutely. So if you talk about what I do with my customers in terms of logistics, and it's not just so much about e-commerce, absolutely. But for me, we have very strong partnerships with people who can add value to a retailer's life, whether it's tech companies, whether it's marketing automation companies, and we work closely with them to be able to curate offers and market them to our clients. But again, I'll tell you the one thing that I've seen is that if those offers are just meaningless, and for example, you're giving a 10% discount on a Shopify subscription or on a marketing automation platform, and you're not targeting the people, for example, who have a website, and you're targeting people who sell on WhatsApp, that is not going to be really useful for them, right? That's where we find a lot of people just saying, I do not allow you. We have a unsubscribe button and they start subscribing from everything we do. So being able to be relevant is very, very important today. More important than it was 5-6 years ago. Email used to be the biggest source of marketing and cross-selling and upselling 10 years ago when I started out my career in e-commerce. And today there's so much junk email that WhatsApp has become the new method of communication that people pay attention to. Even SMSs are going away. And WhatsApp and short videos, like you said, right? YouTube videos, etc. So because no one has the attention span to go through 540 junk emails to find that one relevant email.
I get it. Yeah. Vipul?
I think balance has to be between privacy and personalization. So like, others said on the panel, I think it all depends on how you're using the user's data and what is the value that you're adding to that data. So for example, if I'm the user of a content platform and you are using it for better content recommendations, I would not really mind you taking all my data and tracking me and seeing my viewing habits. But at the same time, if you are, spamming me with different things, then I may not like that. Also, from a user consent perspective, I think what is important is that there are certain categories of data which the user is not comfortable in sharing. But things like, what their browsing habits are, what their app usage, etc., is, what kind of transactions, etc., they are using. Users typically have no issues in giving consent because most of the users also appreciate when there are good suggestions which are coming on basis of that. So at Affle, as a policy, what we do, for example, is that we never maintain any app specific data. All our intelligence is basically done at a user level, at a more category level, because we are more interested in defining exactly what the behavior of an individual user is without really caring whether he is doing a transaction on Amazon or a Flipkart or any other platforms. And I think it is that balance which all the publishing platforms and other advertising platforms will have to maintain to be able to understand to what extent is data required for the level of personalization that they need to deliver to the user, and judiciously take the consent and then use that data which they have received as a result of the consent to only give something which the user appreciates and not really make the user feel that his privacy is getting invaded. And I think, and that is the key, because I see several apps, taking consent for reading the contact book, for reading the photos, for reading, the location, when actually their use cases have nothing to do with it.
Absolutely.
And that is something that, self-governance is important, as well as I'm sure that even with the new data regulations, etc., there would be curbs put on that as well.
Okay, so what about real-time contextual data? How is that going to come into play for personalization? I believe artificial intelligence can really come into play, driving impression level targeting without having user level data.
So that's already there. Actually,
Yeah.
a lot of real-time contextual data is being used by several platforms, including our platforms, to see, all of us have seen examples where, you go to a website or an app and you've seen a certain product added to your cart and you've come out, and immediately within seconds, you start seeing, products, the same products being retargeted to you, as well as related products coming to you. So I think that has a huge role to play. And I think that is actually the most relevant from an advertising perspective as well. And thanks to a lot of computing power and data science technologies and AI, ML, etc., we are able to do sharper and sharper targeting to the users and have a lot of success in being able to predict that who are the users who are likely to buy what kind of products and recommend those products. And we've seen decent amount of lift coming in when we are able to deploy those algorithms and target the right products to the right users at the right time.
Okay, anyone else wants to chip in? Rohit or Akshay or whoever else?
Oh, absolutely. And the one thing I will chip in is, like, when we talk about real-time contextual data, right? So about 3 years ago, people used to come on our platform. They used to, let's say, we do a lot of content marketing because it's about figuring out what people are interested in. And let's say someone was looking at shipping from India to the US. The moment they used to click on it, they used to just come to a standard sign-up form, which had basically, it was a common workflow for everybody, right? And it was not really personalized in terms of the needs of that person. And today, I think with the amount of data that we can process and the AI that we have in place, the entire user journey from the time that they show interest in a particular topic to the time that they actually become a paying customer is contextualized for us. If someone is saying they want to ship outside India, why should I keep on bombarding them with all the great things that I can do for shipping with India? While I want to tell them all of that stuff as they become customers and they stay with me. But during that user journey, if that's top of mind of that customer, my conversion tripled the moment we changed our entire, 2.7x it went in that period of 6 months when we changed and we made our entire user journey. It's not just marketing, so personalized basis of the intent that the customer showed us on the first page that they clicked in, rather than taking them through a generic user journey, which was the same for everyone, just because that helped me. Earlier, it was the easiest way to be able to optimize conversion funnels, right? To be able to have someone go through the same journey. The moment you had different conversion funnels, you had to optimize for multiple variables and figure out what was working rather than for a single variable, which was just where the lead came from. And I think that's a revelation, and it's changed digital advertising, and that is what is going to help reduce junk and help grab eyeballs and attention for a longer time.
You needn't be too dependent on user data then. You need it in all of y'all. So why are we hankering so much after user data? Nilesh, let somebody else come.
I think as people mentioned, right, real-time contextual data, it's happening today also. Only problem is it is on the same platform. Okay, till the time it doesn't become cross-platform. I'll give one example, or fantasy. Okay, whatever you call it. Cricket match happening on TV, Pepsi ad comes up, and my Grofers or my Big Basket or Buy Nearby app gives me notification by Pepsi or order Pepsi, right? I mean, that kind of a contextual real-time communication has to happen. For that, multiple platform needs to work in sync, and technology is going to be the common aspect or binding factor to achieve this. So that is what is needed now, where the cross-platform, contextual real-time data and
Nilesh, that is also happening. I mean, we have recently, through our Media Smart platform, launched technologies where you see the ads on the connected TV, and we identify that you are part of the same household and show you, related content and ads on the device also. So that cross-platform is obviously a more difficult puzzle to solve. But I think taking and it's actually, like you said, that it's a a very utopian kind of a scenario where you are using one platform for gathering the data. So supposing through the connected TV what my viewership habits are and what I'm consuming.
That's a walled garden again,
personalizing.
Right? Connected TV is walled garden again. It's a closed user base. Yeah.
No, not necessarily, because through if you are able to identify the mobile handsets of the users who are watching that TV, who are part of the same household, then you are able to come out of that and then on the mobile device basically show them ads which are contextual to the content that they have viewed or the ads that they have viewed. So, and that is what a lot of
gather that much more data. You have to gather that much more data. You have to gather that much more data about the household.
No, not necessarily. I'm saying that even purely from the content viewership habits, or what is being consumed, you can make a reasonably good user profile. I mean, somebody is watching more English content, more premium kind of content, etc. What location are they from? Because there are a lot of surrogates also which come into play. For example, a user, if he's based in South Bombay and he's using a premium handset, chances are that he's a high net worth individual and TG for a certain kind of product. Versus you see somebody using a lower end handset staying in some suburban areas, you again have some kind of information that you can derive. So just by combining these metrics and some partial data that you can gather, even with that, very powerful profiling can be done and contextual advertising can be targeted.
Okay, Ishan, you haven't spoken. Your turn. I need contextual.
Yes. So I think one more thing we should also look at is that, what's the cross app usage that, let's say any entity's app has with any other entity, right? So for instance, if we see that, like out of 100 users who are coming onto a platform, 60 users are using, let's say, a Flipkart, right? Or let's say 40 users are using another app. It could be something very, very differential, let's say a sports app, right? So now that kind of information which is available on market analytics platforms can also help us identify how we can monetize our users by tying up with the right kind of entities, whether it's as a publisher, a digital publisher, or it could be something like a more integrated model But the idea is, that's sort of that kind of gives you a good sense of what other where else your users are spending time when they're not on your platform, and when they're still on their smartphones, because at the end you have to capture their mind share. So I think that's one more item that I think would help us monetize, and at the same time contextually reach out to the users even when they're not on our platform.
Great. I'm going to throw another thing out. While, let's say the publishers, the platforms offer solutions, are the advertisers in the right mindset? Do they have enough formats being delivered? Do they have enough contextual messaging being delivered and communication being delivered? Or is it, common communication, and then you have cohorts, and you have the same communication being bombarded? I don't think the advertising ecosystem has evolved enough in communication terms. Who wants to
I
come?
would agree with that. I would agree with that because, we work with several advertisers, and it's always that we have requirements for different kinds of formats, different contextual advertising, different content, etc., that we would want to be advertised, and getting even a new set of creatives every few weeks from the advertisers is a huge challenge. So while everybody talks about the scenario where everything is contextual and very personalized to the user, but just getting simple creatives out, so multiple sets of creatives for different regions or different segments of users is a huge challenge. And I think definitely the advertisers need to evolve more.
And just to add to what Vipul has mentioned, I mean, not just creatives, right? I think the expectations from all platforms are different and offer something really unique, right? But actually the preferences from advertisers would be, they will have a common goal across all platforms without really understanding the niche for the audiences or the requirement of the platforms too. So while it is good that everyone is thinking and talking about personalizing it in a very different way as per the users, but then it is also very platform dependent in terms of what those platforms are offering and how do they help you better target your users. I mean, just like we're talking about contextual, right? I mean, there are providers like us, right? We will know that like how Ishan mentioned that what his 100 users are doing on Credit B, right? We will in some shape and form, we see those users across multiple different apps, right? So we will also know that this is a finance user, but then he's also a sports enthusiast because he's watching so much on OTT. He's also a shopaholic because he's shopping on e-commerce, right? And bringing in all those data sets together, providers like us can help with better profiling of the audiences for the brands, right? And that is where it starts to become more relevant for everyone.
Yeah, but then you have to have data sharing. Then you have to, how do you do this cross-platform data? You don't have a common data provider like that who's providing your cross platforms.
Yeah, we do have our first-party SDKs in publisher apps, right? So I mean, we will see the user across different apps that we kind of gather the data from. So we'll all of this will be first-party data, right? And then we'll effectively be able to profile at a cohort level that these are the cohorts who are interested in this, right? And then there is some linkage that we'll be able to develop, in terms of what a particular set of users, if there are 3 things that I want to define about a user, these are those 3 things, right? So we'll always, platforms such as us will have access to a lot more information than just individual advertisers out there. I mean, and we do that with a lot of brands, right? I mean, they will come back with a set of users that these are the users, these are our users that we want to target, right? Can you help us extend this reach? So we don't want to do spray and pray, right? I mean, we don't want to show mass advertising, but then can you help us kind of grow this data set to a larger data set, which is more relevant, right? So we'll kind of...
Yeah, I get that. But what about contextual advertising by the advertiser? That's what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
Which is not happening. We don't have so many formats and so many different communications. Like there could be a product for an older woman, there could be a product for a younger woman, but both the younger women and the older women see the same commercial or the same banner or the same video or the same GIF.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, the messaging, etc., right, has to be really personalized, which is not happening right now, right? But I think the ecosystem is moving towards that, right? I mean, there are actually niche technological providers that have started to come in, right, to kind of just focus on and help on creative front, right, because the brands might not be equipped with all of them themselves, right? So there are these bridges that are coming in and hopefully moving towards the world, because that is something that would be required.
Yeah, but
I'll just quickly jump in and add to the point that was very well mentioned over here. So I think on even the basic DSPs or the kind of ad setups that we do on Google and Facebook, right? Especially on Facebook, because Google now is, at least on the mobile marketing side, has largely moved towards UAC. So we can always define cohorts and target accordingly. So for instance, let's say if you show a North Indian guy an ad copy which has the image of a person who has slightly, let's say, South Indian features, right? So while everything else is relevant to the individual, at the subconscious level, there is some
resistance.
non-reachability.
Yeah.
Right. Similarly, if you're showing a male individual for, if the target audience is male, and it's a proposition that you're selling or trying to market directly to the end user. No, it's not a gifting thing, because in gifting it's reverse, right? So in that case, if you show a female, the image on the ad copy or on the creative, then again, it's the relatability is not there. So you can always identify the larger cohorts. Of course, at a very minuscule level, you have to probably go to the DCOs and all that. But at least at a larger level, if you identify cohorts, set the target audience accordingly, and use creatives that are very specific, or the communication as well, which is very specific to them, I think it definitely improves the click through and the overall performance.
Okay. Anyone else wants to come in? Or is everything been said about this? So in terms of the use of artificial intelligence going forward, see, we have programmatic, but is programmatic really working? Programmatic versus contextual? All of these conversations can go on. Who wants to jump in? Yep, Ishan, you want to take a shot?
Sorry, come again on the programmatic bit.
Yeah, versus contextual, specifically on contextual.
On the right, so I think, see, programmatic, again, it's a very data-driven model, and it largely enhances your reach. So it's, again, it depends on how you're looking at programmatic, whether you're looking at it as a performance channel, or it's more of a performance assist or a brand channel. So most of us don't really look at programmatic as performance, because its idea overall is to enhance reach, enhance impressions.
Absolutely.
Once you actually go ahead and do your performance marketing, overall, even for organic for that matter, it helps create that brand recall or awareness, whatever is applicable, and then helps you convert better, right? So that's the whole idea. So contextualization definitely helps anywhere in any form of marketing, but then again, in programmatic, because you have larger levers, there is so much data, there's so much inventory. So definitely you have more levers to play around with, and you can always automate campaigns to that extent. But again, if you talk about it from a pure play performance standpoint, I don't really think programmatic, as much as you contextualize it, can really be looked at as a performance channel. You have to always look at it as a performance assist or a brand channel, at least in our experience.
Okay, and what role do you all see? Who else wants to step in on the use of AI going forward as far as publishing platforms is concerned? Vipul, you want to take a shot, or Nilesh or Rohit? And machine language again, machine learning.
See, as far as programmatic is concerned, I would slightly differ with Ishan on it being primarily more a branding channel, etc. I mean, obviously that is there, but I think we've delivered very scalable outcomes using our AI ML algorithms and the data that we have, and to some extent contextualization as well through the programmatic channels. So I agree that the extent of contextualization on programmatic has certain limitations, because in many cases, when you're buying inventory, you may not know the exact placement which is there or where your ad is going to appear and so on. But at the same time, combining the existing intelligence that you have about the user, as well as, broadly, which destination are you using, as well as, the real-time contextual information that you're getting. I think programmatic is definitely very powerful. And I personally see, and we've all seen it actually, the share of programmatic scaling up more and more, because it also democratizes the entire process. So programmatic in that sense is very, very powerful for the publishers as well as for advertisers, because it suddenly makes it an even playing field, and anybody can go and have access to any kind of inventory and buy it on a uniform protocol. So the entire issues which used to happen at, where you have to block inventory with publishers and different CPMs, etc., and there is no standard rates and things like that. Programmatic definitely helps there. And I think there are reasonable tools and levers available for contextualization and personalization on programmatic as well.
Okay. All right.
I think a couple of things where artificial intelligence really comes into the play. One is lookalike, right? I mean, you have a data of people, you have a set of target audience, and you train your algorithms so that they identify the similar set of users, and then even with you have limited data sets for those kind of users, you can start targeting and personalization for those guys. One more thing is when user is about to think about purchase, right? And you start communicating personalization at that moment. There again, the artificial intelligence is gonna come into the picture in a big way, right? So prediction models specifically I'm talking about, right? So that can happen only with artificial intelligence. So these are the two areas largely I see where artificial intelligence will be.
And what about machine learning? Ishan, you want to step in on that, or Rohit?
Yeah, I think
Training your platform or training your publisher, the publisher training itself to target the user effectively by learning what the user is doing.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, talking about Google UAC, which has already been used very actively, at least in the mobile marketing space by all the advertisers, and even now Facebook has jumped in with AAA earlier this year. So definitely, all of that is dependent on machine learning, where you gather data about the campaigns, about how the TG is responding, and then basis that, instead of manual bidding or manual optimizations for a lot of parameters, it's the machine or the algorithm in itself that decides and identifies, and that's the whole idea that all these platforms have come up with, right? That we know our data. You just tell us what you want and what you want to optimize and to what extent, and we know our data. We'll be able to optimize it better than you do, as long as you give us the right directions. And it's scaling up really well, I believe. Overall, we have seen that UAC, at least the initial couple of launches, which is UAC install and UAC action, so they're all hit in the market, and most of the mobile marketing is being driven via that. Even programmatic to a large extent is machine driven itself. So I think there's definitely enough progress that's happened, and I think now even the ad networks, the publishers and all, they're also using all these automated platforms where you just provide the directions, and everything else will be taken up, and they're only enriching it with time. So definitely that's where the industry is moving.
Yeah, and Rohit.
Yeah, so I think ML has kicked in a big way, right? I mean, we see across our platforms, right, which are also, that, while the user defines a certain cohort, right, in terms of what they want to see or what is the kind of content they want to see, but the system really understands and learns if given some time, right? It understands and learns in terms of what is the true engagement happening on the platform, right? And basis that, recommendations and insights are being shared, right? But then with programmatic play, the levers are there with the brands and advertisers, etc. Right? So effectively, I think technology wise, right, everything and multiple levers are available, right? The platforms do offer a plethora of things, whether it's performance or brand awareness, right? Brands and advertisers can define their goal and get into those levers. They can use their data sets along with third-party data sets. Everything is available, right? It's just kind of combining everything and using it in the right way, whether it comes to contextual.
Yeah, but going forward, I see video and in video not ever being replaced by machine language or artificial intelligence. Advertising in video or in content. It's going to be around content, right? Mainly around content rather than in.
Yeah, I think the way in which content will be combined, I think it's still evolving, I would say, right? There are newer formats. Video has come in a big way, right? A few years before it was all display and static, right? And it's video. There are newer formats coming into video as well, right? And there's still a lot of innovation happening. I would still say that we are at a very early stage when it comes to how content will change in the years to come, right? With a lot of there were new digital savvy users, right, which everyone in all digital platforms were focusing on. But then with geo coming in and newer form of content coming in, right, there are a lot more users online, and I think new users are coming at a really rapid pace. So a lot of innovation will happen in terms of how those users are being reached, right? We don't know what formats clicks with what kind of user. So I would still not really say which is the format that might be working, but definitely right now, video is and short form video is the thing that is happening.
Okay, anyone else? Because I've been told I have another 2 minutes left. We have 2 minutes. I don't know if I hope we've not meandered along and we've discussed a few points which are relevant to the topic that we had in mind. I hope we've not meandered, all of y'all, and you all didn't find this a waste of your time. I learned a bit from y'all guys. Yeah. Go ahead, Ishan, you want to say something?
No, I think definitely not a waste of time. I think we all can vouch for it. It's always good to learn from each other and join and understand what you are across the spectrum. So definitely, it's greatly enlightening. At least I can speak for myself as much as you can. And yeah, I think it's a great discussion. I don't have any specific points to add at the moment.
Anyone else? Any points? Akshay or Vipul? And before we call it a day, and I learned a lot from y'all guys. I must tell y'all.
Same here. I have to say thank you, Anil, and all the panelists. Not being a marketing professional, being a business guy, it was really enlightening, and yeah, exciting times ahead.
Thank you very much, Vipul.
It was good. I think it was especially interesting to know the kind of stuff Shiprocket and CreditBee, etc. are doing. So definitely very interesting to know the strides which different companies are taking. Thank you so much for sharing the insights.
Thank you. Thanks, Ishan. Thanks, Rohit. And thanks, all of y'all. Have a great day and a great week ahead. And I hope we don't again get another round of COVID coming and hitting us, the next wave.
Yes.
I'm just hoping Europe and America are trembling right now.
Yeah.
Thanks a million. See you guys.
Okay. See you guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone, for such a mind-stimulating discussion. And now we move on to the last session of the day, audience behavior and publishers. And for this session, I would like to welcome Mr. Puneet, our Seed Director, Specialist Businesses, South Asia Insights Division, Qatar, Bharat Arora, Country Manager, India, Taboola, Nitin Agarwal, Senior VP, Topper, Mr. Shonil Charles, Managing Director, India, Outbrain, Mr. Karan Jatapkar, Head of Digital ABP. This session will be moderated by Ms. Srishti Chaudhary, Managing Editor, IndianTelevision.com. I welcome you all and over to you, Srishti.
Thank you so much, Dheeraj. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, great. So good evening, everyone. Very pleased to welcome you all to the Pubnation Summit 2021 being organized by the IndianTelevision.com group. So here we are tracking the next big surge. Now, we all know how the pandemic has transformed the way the media and entertainment industry, and especially the news operations across print and digital. The fast-paced digital environment that we all were getting used to, the pandemic ensured that we adapt faster than usual. So that definitely meant that the job got much more challenging for all of us. There were industry sections where we had to allot a lot more resources to data collection, to mine that data, to interpret that data, to understand what's really going on, where is the audience going, and what kind of content is being watched by that audience. So in this particular session, we'll be discussing some of those key trends, but the central point of discussion will definitely be the audience behavior, which really impacts the industry. So as Deenal has formally introduced you all, I'll take once again this opportunity to welcome you all. We have on the panel Mr. Puneet Awasthi. He is Director Specialist Businesses, South Asian Insights Division at Kantar. Welcome, Puneet. We have Bharat Arora. He is Country Manager, India at Taboola. Nitin Agrawal, he's Senior Vice President, Topper. Shonil Charles, who recently took over as Managing Director, India at Outbrain. And we have Karan Jatapkar. He's the Head of Digital ABP. Thank you so much for taking out some time to be part of this discussion. So if you saw the previous two sessions, I think the major point that came out of it was that the short form videos are really garnering a lot of attention. It seems the audience is kind of moving towards that format. But I would want to really understand from all of you and your views on this, that how has the Indian market adapted to it? Are we really moving into, spending a lot of, time and investment into the short form videos? So I would like to begin with either Outbrain and Taboola. So Shawnil, if you would like to express your views on this. Yes.
Shrishti, it's good to be here. And, like you mentioned, all of 3 weeks old in Outbrain. So I'm on the fence. I can, take your questions on the publisher side where I spent 10 years and some sort of insights along with Bharat on, this world of, content recommendations and native and things like that, which is really awesome. Yeah. So, I'll take a step back to answer your question. This whole conference and sort of this meeting is pre-COVID and post-COVID, and what the journey has been like. So, anyway, digital media businesses and digital news publishing is like a roller coaster. During COVID, it became like a roller coaster on steroids. When it started, we didn't know, when it would end. There was every survival instinct kicked in. 3-4 months in, pretty much everyone's business stabilized. And compared to all other mass media, I think digital, got the good side of, we're in a much better place now, as the COVID journey is, we're 1 or 2 years in and maybe getting over, etc. Here, my 2 points on audience, and since that's also part of the panel, and I'll get into a short video after this, is that India's never had a problem with audience, okay, scaling audience and building audience. And, we quickly become the biggest audience set for any digital platform, globally. It's just very adaptive and, early movers, all that action happens. And the same thing's playing out in short video, as it's coming on everyone's screens. It's becoming sort of the go-to place. And somewhere halfway through, COVID, pretty much all the news publishers and content creators realized that this is a critical area. We were all, still grappling with getting our television content onto YouTube and Facebook and, those formats. And then this new piece came in, but this is something you can't ignore at all. This is sort of short. You don't need a lot of mind space. You just don't, it's so accessible and there's so much of it. But if video was complicated earlier, this has just made video even more difficult to do. It's not difficult to make the content, but now you're as a premium content creator, you're also competing with thousands, if not millions of, micro content creators who might be even better than the bigger brands, at this piece. So, I've generally given you a gist of some of my thoughts, but short video is here to stay. It's something which everyone has to take very, very seriously. And, as the marketplace evolves, we all have to get our game right on this.
Definitely, definitely. So that, kind of helps us to look forward to that that things are actually looking up, which is a good point for you to start the discussion with.
Yeah.
Bharat, what do you have to say on this?
Sure. Thank you, Srishti, for giving me a chance to talk about. And congratulations, Shonil. You're on same side of the table. I'm so good to see you there.
Thank you, Bharat.
So coming back to, I think, as I think Shonil has already given the background, so I don't want to talk about pre-COVID, post-COVID. I'm sure everybody's aware that how things went down. Performance was one of the key things that we saw at Taboola, or as a tech player, that every brand or agency coming back to us was talking about more of performance. So KPIs, whenever we talking about awareness, now shifted to bottom of the funnel or lower of the funnel, because for everybody was to survive. It was very, very important to deliver numbers, and everybody was trying to adapt to that situation. So that that's how things came up to us. And otherwise, in terms of, we see a lot of changes that happened in terms of content, in terms of the creative, in terms of how people shifted from talking about data to actually using data. So we will talk about, I think maybe in this session we'll talk about how data is much more smarter and how various brand agencies are using this opportunity to utilize more of a data-centric planning. The marketing is much more smarter, I would say. But coming back to a video advertising, I think, of course, as you said, Srishti, this is one of the things that happened is short format videos is picking up, definitely. I believe this is one of the key formats that we have started, but I think this is just a beginning, where we will see various new formats will be coming on the board. When is the key functionality that we look at for, in my mind, we always saw video as one of a top of the funnel where people get eyeballs, you get awareness. But now things are shifting it. Like, for example, in cricket, you had, test matches, then you had 50 over matches. Now we see T20. People are much smarter. They consume content on the fly. and they actually don't want to have much of wastage of time. So that, for example, now if you look at various applications, news applications, they're talking about short format of of news right now, where people can consume easily. So
Right.
I think this is one of the format that people are consuming, but I think the way to go, because everybody is not talking videos right now from an eyeballs or a awareness perspective. Now engagement and middle of the metrics, video is also delivering it. So which means the measurability within is increasing with the videos. Expectation from brand is coming to us is, they of course they would like to have what number of people who is viewing it. Then they also would like to understand from us what kind of engagement that we are getting from in short format of videos or new format of videos. What exactly people are consuming, what they are looking at, what kind of quartile report. So they are more aggressive and they are much more smarter, educated towards looking at more of the measurability factors. So I think yes, so it has to go, and with many more factors in terms of new format we'll see, and it should be much more better to see. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Yeah, definitely it becomes much more important to really measure how the audience, how is the engagement happening. And I'm glad we have Puneet on the panel as well. But before I move to Puneet, I'd like to know from Karan, how has the transition been for the publishing platform for the news operations? Because the transition happened immediately. Karan, we can't hear you. You'll have to unmute yourself.
For me, a transition has happened from Dentsu to publisher back. I've been 18 years in, but yeah. So in Dentsu, we are more performance marketing, and rightly pointed out, Bharat. I think after the COVID era, most of the money is also moved to performance and the business itself, right? For the marketeers. So that's why the publisher started pushing, I think, more from a performance perspective. But I think we are getting back to branding also, awareness. It's kind of difficult for a publisher, considering the big tech companies we have to fight for performance. Actually, if you see the other tech companies who are there in this, the platforms which are existing in performance marketing, it's become difficult to compete. Also, audience gathering, we are doing it. We are doing audience measuring so that we can funnel them well for performance marketing. But we are not there as yet, because see, our ratio, any publisher, if you see, the ratio from a DAU to MAU it's pretty skewed. We have to reach similar DAUs as the tech companies are, to reach a particular volume in audience to get some monetization benefit. And right now, the focus should be basically what we are focusing on is trying to funnel this audience behavior. We are trying to measure and try to make sure the internal circulation happens so that we can push to a higher yield item like a video or short, as you rightly pointed out, short form video, so that we get this high yield products out to our audience who are more interested in reading right now. I think reading is there. Text is always going to be there. It's not going to go anywhere in India, at least. But video, yeah, as you said, short format video, but there is a pressure on short format video also. I think there is far more time to go there, especially in advertising. I think we still have to find out the revenue model there, the business plan, the model. How do you monetize a short format video? I think everyone's grasping on that. Even the big tech platforms are. So I think, yeah, we're getting there. But yeah, we are still there in audience measurement, and we are trying to use it for internal circulation and management of higher yields.
Okay. So, but you agree that data kind of points towards this direction.
Yeah, data, it's corrected mostly now because we have moved back from performance. It's not like we're there.
Okay.
There was an initial thing to performance, yeah.
Okay. Nitin, what do you have to say on this? Digital advertising, the next big thing, and video is, as we all are discussing, there are a lot of opportunities there. So how does Topper look at that trend?
See, video advertisement is gaining traction. And in my opinion, in coming times, it is going to be one of the very key drivers in advertising. Because if you look at any medium of advertising, two things are very, very important. First is that what is the reach of that medium? And second is how well it is able to engage the viewer. So if we talk about the reach of video, whether it's small, short videos or long videos, post-COVID, all the video-based platforms, small or big, they have all gained much higher traction, and the growth has been very, very fast. And even the revenues have, increased multiple folds. Globally, the household spend on video-based platforms, has increased many folds, and the growth has been much faster compared to what it was pre-COVID. So there is no question of reach when it comes to videos. So that's the first point taken care of. And the second is whether videos are able to engage viewers. So compared to any other form of media, videos are able to engage the viewers in a much deeper sense. Because say if you see a banner or something, right, you are only able to see it. But when you watch a video, two of your senses, eyes and your ears, obviously both get engaged deeply. And then obviously in a video, you can explain things at a much deeper level with much more clarity and conviction. So because of these two things, the way the reach of videos is increasing and the type of engagement videos can have, definitely going ahead, videos are going to be the one of the most important source of advertisement, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And at Topper also, we are an tech company, so apart from advertising, video is sort of our bread and butter, right? So
definitely,
out of our product lines, several product lines, videos, educational videos are definitely one of them, which drive huge engagement and revenue for us. So whether it is, so we are also creating, so in education we generally create large size videos, right? Because there we are teaching something which are like much more detailed and all. But now we are also experimenting and coming up with product lines which will have much smaller videos, right, to engage bite-sized content which users can consume and drive our revenue.
But when we talk about videos, I think within video advertising also, there are like so many challenges, like we were discussing in the previous two sessions also. If you really track the engagement of the audience in videos, it just goes down after 20 seconds, even on the social media platforms or on the publishing platforms. So how do you, people want content and they want it faster. And so how do you really ensure that we are able to reach to the target audience? Puneet, could you probably share some insights on how is this audience really behaving?
Sure. So Shrishti, thanks a lot for inviting me to this forum. Really enlightening for me listening to all the luminaries from the media industry. I think there are three things here that I would want to talk about. One is the fact that audience behavior eventually is a function of or an outcome of the kind of audience constituency that is being looked at. The behavior of an audience that is largely a big city, highly educated audience versus say a rural audience is going to be markedly different, and it is something that needs to be understood very well. That internet today, is in fact 2021 is a year of a major shift in that up until now all estimates that we used to have indicated that there were a larger number of active internet users in urban India as compared to rural India. 2021 is a year where rural India has actually outstripped urban India in terms of the sheer numbers of people who are active users of internet as such. The other is internet is, and therefore, one, it opens up a different constituency altogether, and therefore the modus operandi to actually engage with their audience in itself needs to undergo a change. The second is internet is an anytime, always on medium. Therefore, it is very important to engage the consumer of internet content in in a manner which is alluring to that consumer and is in the context of where the consumer is. So it is very easy for a consumer to move to another video or another
I'm sorry, Puneet. I'm sorry to interject you. Nitin, could you mute probably? I think there's some disturbance coming in from the. Yeah. Puneet, please, sorry, please continue.
So the second one is, of course, what kind of audience is being looked at. So audience behavior is an outcome of the audience that is being understood. The second is the nature of the medium is such which allows for highly personalized content to be delivered, but at the same time, it is also one where the consumer has low attention span and has the option of moving to the next piece of content very quickly. So it's just a kind of a swipe and you move on to the next content as such. So the content has to be one which is kind of, alluring to the audience, and secondly should be delivered to the audience in the right context as such. The reason why short video is so successful is by its nature it works very well in the internet medium. It's a medium which is largely being powered by the mobile phone. It is a medium which is kind of data hungry, and therefore it is a lot more user content generated as such, and therefore short video works very well because everybody is able to in a sense put across his or her creativity as such. And and therefore it is important for brands to be able to deliver content to consumers in their language, to be able to engage and to discover what is it that works with different audiences. Internet today is a very vast umbrella. It's an umbrella which has so many different constituencies that there are going to be multiple renditions, multiple formats in which the same communication needs to be delivered to be to be able to hold the attention of the audience across the board as such. And it really depends on the nature of the product and the number of different groups that it is serving. But these are the two very important things that really leads to a highly engaged internet audience. It is an audience that is kind of spending a lot more time today. It's the time spent on television as compared to time spent on internet. Internet is today the second largest medium in the country, and the time spent is going up significantly as compared to television, which is pretty much static.
So
there
definitely,
are things that are going in favor of internet. It's important to be able to tap into that opportunity by understanding the consumer better.
so it kind of becomes more challenging. You highlighted two things. One is the kind of content, it matters. And second is data. When we say personalized content, we really need to know what kind of content that each kind of audience, that we need to cater to. So I see, Outbrain and Taboola also investing a lot into video intelligence and understanding, mining that data and really interpreting it. So, Bharat, could you elaborate on what kind of collaborations and what kind of innovation that you are bringing in to mine this?
Sure. So in terms of not only videos, overall, if you look at, since Taboola, people come to us because they want to consume the real premium content. Okay, the content has become much more smarter. Now, marketing today is, from a brand and agency perspective, is much more storytelling than it's all about selling. Okay, so it is very, very important. So content plays very, very important piece in whatever thing that we do. Especially at Taboola, what we do is we are trying to marry few things together, which means with every story there has to be a data. So, for example, during the COVID times, we have seen a lot of brands were wrapping themselves around toward keyword like health, wellness, fitness. For example, you have seen certain brands like Dabur. They were talking about how physically and mentally you can be better if you lose that. So it is all about, and they looked at what people are consuming, what kind of stories or what kind of content they're consuming right now on the real-time basis. They look at the data plus create a story around. We have saw brands like even mattresses talking about you have a virus-free mattresses which is again story revolving around the same cause. So everything that we are talking today in terms of the piece of content is getting much more smarter, where every piece of creative, every story, and everything is being backed up by data-centric plans. So what we have done is the Taboola. We have done a few. We have launched something called Taboola Newsroom. So the newsroom is actually it's actionable editorial data, which tells a brand or an agency that what exactly right now people are consuming, where the eyeballs are, what their engagement points are. Base is the same. We look at which all geos, what people are at right now, what they're consuming, at what part of the city, and what exactly they're looking at. So on the fly, we make the content, we create the creative likewise, and we serve them very, very personalized creative to a specific user, so that our engagement points, not only from as I said, top of the funnel, but it also gives pressure towards bottom of the funnel. So your bottom of the funnel is much more heavier, because through all these technologies, through all these solutions, it is always better for, and it also adds on to a lot of measurability or I would say, so brands can look at various attribution angles. They can look at exactly what kind of, they can do more analysis. And then
in real time, basically.
Absolutely. Everything is happening in real time. As I said, everything is getting more smarter from not only a static content, everything like a smart content. And then basis the same, everything is fly on the real. And then you can measure it real time basis, and you can push the pipe again to your marketing plans, and then you get much more smarter every day you can.
Yeah, Karan, is it something that really works for you, tracking, when you get data in real time, and because when we see even across the news platforms, across newsrooms and publishing websites, it changes. Everything that is trending, it's content. So how do you ensure that your content is viewed?
So our CMS is deeply integrated with analytics. So we normally send a lot of pointers which are happening. So our marketing team itself is a lot connected with trending keywords, what is happening from an SEO perspective, what is happening on a Facebook perspective. So it's like a moving desk now. The assignment desk is like a moving desk, depending on what demand is driving. Even our partners help. For example, Taboola also has its own analytics, which we can help what's happening currently. So that helps our editorial team to think faster around the digital demand. So they have a curated stuff, they have their own stories to put, but then most of the time they also know that what stories are going to be in demand, what's there. So we make sure our CMS is more integrated and said down now the assignment desk is moving. It's called a moving assignment desk. So we keep on moving depending on what is the digital demand happening, and it's real time from our GA, from our Google Analytics, from our Taboola Analytics, or any other analytics which we have. We try to push how many keywords we have. The marketing tools which we have, especially Google and Facebook, are very good. If you see the keyword planner or whatever, you get good data, good amount of data where you can push this, right? You can push a lot of information to the editorial, drive the editorial intelligence to make sure that we have the stories on board on ABP Live or on ABP platforms. That will help.
So I think that, definitely it is very challenging, but I think that also highlights why we need technology, and we kind of rely on that. So, yeah, you were saying something.
Yeah, technology is always there. The partnership with these Tabulas or the Outbrains, they are very good because they are across platforms. They can get the DAU to MAU ratio high. So once you have that high enough, you know the audience high enough. A publisher on his own stream can't get that ratio high. So I think analytics from them helps us much more in writing and running our daily editorial. And there is where we bring in more, trying to make the editorial more intelligent is more important, the digital editorial team. Right? In our sense, we are also pushing this to TV also. Now our TV also takes up the same analytics dashboard, which we are pushing to our digital editorial. And I think Sumit and all also are using that for their own purposes for TV as well, so that they can change the breaking news as per the mood of the digital era. So it's quite helpful from an editorial, and technology plays a very important role in driving that, because data, such amount of huge data, if you see and processing that on real time, you require a good set of technology hands, and you require good partners on board to get that sorted. Yeah.
Okay. I would like to ask Shawneel, so how is Outbrain helping the editorial to become more intelligent across platforms?
So, Shrishti, I've run newsrooms, and I'm talking to a journalist yourself. So while I was there, some very pertinent sort of realizations started setting in, and journalism all about good content, ethical journalism, this and that, writing long format. Somehow we are losing that piece here. Now, there are some newsrooms here as well, but I used to tell my editorial people, and it was not coming from my heart, but it was something which had to be discussed, is that you're now not writing for a human being, you're writing for an algorithm. Because there's so much dependence on Google search, there's so much dependence on the algos picking up the content. If the algo doesn't like your content, no human will even see it. Okay, so and now these, that's on the algo side. The human, and we're talking about audiences in this panel. Audiences have also become a little, their attention spans become very less. If you write a deep story on a mobile screen, people are just reading headline, image, maybe half a paragraph and then moving to the next thing, so the way we are delivering content also is changing a lot. But there's no dearth of content. Okay, there are hundreds of newsrooms in this country making the best possible content. But now that's not the only piece of the pie. And that's going back to your point that the game is being won by data, tech, and platform. And by game, I mean the guys who are making the money. So it's not like publishers are not making money. There's a good amount of revenue lines and established businesses, and they will be there to stay. But I could see the power shift. So that's one of the reasons, maybe I took a call to move to the other side of the fence and work for an outfit like Outbrain. And to give you a sense of what we are trying to do is we are trying to partner with the publisher. This is, the model essentially works on top of publisher content. It will not exist otherwise. And what it's evolved more from just being an RPM partner or someone who just comes in, leases out space and gives you inventory. And so now the conversation with publishers is more on three fronts. Of course, we bring monetization. We also help with editorial engagement. All publishers want to understand what content they can do better, etc. And these platforms do have the data and intelligence to sort of groom newsrooms in a better style. And we are also seeing that every publisher now has revenue diversification sort of objectives. It's not just banner revenue and the ad space which is on the page. Some people want subscriptions. There's a branded content opportunity which almost everyone is creating. Some guys want e-commerce. So there's a plethora of diversified revenue opportunities on the publisher side, and they are coming to partners like us at Outbrain to sort of help them leverage it, because they whatever said and done, they have still some ways to go in getting the understanding of data and how to analyze it and how to use tech in the best way, because that's not their forte, right? They want to invest their millions of dollars in better content. So players like us are the ones who will invest the same amount of money in technology, and somewhere this partnership will start making sense with everyone winning.
Yeah, definitely. Like you rightly pointed out, the challenges that we are facing in order to meet this demand. Like we are meeting the demand of the algorithm, and the algorithm demands much more. But you also talked about the revenue generation. So I just wanted to ask, all the panelists. So does this, make the industry change the way they spend their money and the revenue allocation? Because now data is the thing that everything revolves around. So Nitin or Puneet or anyone, if you would want to talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. Data is very, very important, because when you churn out a content, so if somebody churns out a content, he thinks that particular content is good or not good, but the market may perceive it very differently. And the important thing is that different segments of the market thinks about the same content in a very, very different way. And by analyzing and reading the data in a very careful manner, you actually sort of identify that what segment of customers or users like what type of content. Many times we have seen that because we are talking about the video content, the same sentence or the same paragraph is spoken in two different tones. The engagement of the content completely varies, or the segment of the market which likes that particular content changes. In fact, we did an interesting experiment where a song was formed. The lyrics of a song was written, and then it was recorded once in form of a ghazal and other time in the form of rock music, the same lyrics. And and that piece of content, when tested with some thousands of users, we found that different users were liking the two versions. Like younger people were liking the rock version and the older people were liking the ghazal version. So data in that sense is very, very important, because it tells us who is liking what, and by learning that, you can churn better content for the right customer going ahead. And obviously, once you learn that, you direct your expenditure in the right direction, right? You learn the right thing, and then you expend in the right direction. Otherwise, in the previous era, right, we had to just guess and hope that a particular expenditure towards an advertisement would work.
Nitin, but I'd like to ask you, but do you face the challenge of getting that data, collecting that data, and trusting that data? Are there challenges there?
Yeah, there are challenges in collecting and reading the data correctly, but fortunately, we are blessed with very good engineers and data team who are able to dig deeper with the right type of data and gather the right insights. So it is a difficult task, definitely, which requires good people to work on, but at the end of the day, it is solvable. And we are able to solve that in a right manner, to answer your question.
And how do you, yeah, sorry, Shawneel was saying something.
No, Shristi, I wasn't.
Yes,
I'll jump in when you're talking about monetization.
Okay, so how do, yeah, sorry. So how do we see when we are collaborating with the publishing platforms, data is the, it's demanded, but are we getting that data from across brands from the platforms? Do we see that kind of investment going in? Karan, Bharat, anyone? Yeah.
Yeah, if I could just add into what Nitin just said, and he's rightly pointed out that advertisers are looking to maximize the return on investment, which is for every rupee spent, the maximum engaged audience as such. And therefore, the way I would look at this world of digital advertising continuing to evolve is where there's going to be that much more data enrichment. It's going to be where there are going to be multiple data sets, multiple streams of the consumer and understanding of the consumer in his or her facets of life as such, and kind of bringing it together in a sharper manner, and therefore allowing an ABP to very sharply define for various advertisers the kind of audience that they are providing, the kind of habits and choices that they have in terms of the brands that they could be buying, the kind of context which connects with them the best, as also what are the other platforms that these people are going to be available on, and therefore increasing the frequency or the opportunities to see. So there are going to be, to my mind, some of these walled gardens that exist as such, the data silos, are increasingly going to start kind of fraying on the edges, because it is advantageous for everybody to be able to trade insights in a safe room, as such, in a clean room. And that's something that is going to be the future of communication, where messaging would really be able to, marketers would be able to deliver messaging in a sharper manner to a very sharply defined audience, and therefore working towards the advantage of also publishers. Publishers put up a lot of content, but are they really getting the benefit of the content that they are kind of, and there's a cost of creating content. And that's something that, to my mind, technology will increasingly be able to solve by actually creating this ecosystem of harnessing multiple data points about the consumer. And there I feel that players such as us, which are traditionally small data players, in a sense provide the intersections easily, which can kind of which can provide the seed audience for larger integrations as such and predictive modeling.
So, I mean, does that mean that the cost of this content generation has also gone up? And are we able to monetize it as effectively as we should be doing right now? Shawneel, if you would like to share your views.
Shristi, can you just repeat that? I just missed out on
Yeah. No, I was just trying to understand. So does that mean the cost of this whole content creation has gone up, in meeting these demands?
But you know what? People are applying economies of scale on the content creation side. Digital content is much more efficient and cheaper than, say, what we were doing for our television network, etc. So it's happening there. Monetization is a strange game in India. And like I said earlier, you build audiences very quickly with the hope that monetization follows. For most players, it's not lived up to what we thought it would be. We thought video would happen, we'll get 500 rupees CPMs. That's become 5 rupees. It's the ecosystem has sort of run away a little bit from the publishers, but it's still not all lost. I still feel that just the sheer size and scale of the money which is moving into the digital ecosystem. So we compete with Taboola, but I know that the playing field is so vast that all these businesses will get a lot of tailwind. And in the end of it, there is no game without content. This whole media game, if one stakeholder suffers so much that we start seeing outfits shutting down or newsrooms shrinking in size. We did see a little bit of it in COVID. So the overall sort of game is over. So I think there will be a lot of reverse sharing of all the key facets like tech, data, the monetization models, etc., across the ecosystem with the larger players. A little bit of our ecosystem also got messed up because the walled gardens just took away 70-80% of the revenue. So the rest of the players, including the content creators, have only so much to, sort of play around with. I think that sort of channel will also reverse itself a little bit, because everybody knows that without the content there is no business. So that's my sort of evangelical thinking, but it has to sort of play out in that way, because we can't have just a few people, say the data owners or the platform owners or someone who's really good at tech.
Ben is creating a lot of noise, Shonil. You're banging the pen on the table.
Sorry, we can't have just the tech owners, taking away a large part of this portion. So cool. That's my point. Sorry about the pen.
Okay. Bharat, I'd like to understand from you also. Do you also see a change in the demand that comes from most of the publishing platforms now over the last 1 year, and how they have adapted to it, or what are they really seeking when they are trying to get the audience's attention?
In my perspective, I think we have two sides of the table that we see at Taboola. One, of course, we have publisher partners. So, for example, Karan can correct me if I'm wrong. So we have seen all publisher, including EBP, is there. They are now understand where to invest, where to look at. So in terms of the way they are creating the content, it's much better. It is much evolved. In terms of the usage of the data, in terms of organizing data, using it, and monetizing it, it's next level now. The way I think we're evolving, I completely agree with what Shonil said. I think end of the day, content is like the backbone of whatever that we do today. There's no data if people are not consuming it. So it is very, very important, because it's the first point of interaction for any consumer to look at the digital space where they come to consume the content. And then of course they do interaction likewise. So it is very, very important for a publisher partner, like for example, Karan is there, he can vouch for it, that they produce that kind of stories, that kind of content which makes people engage, and it into various, so they do a lot of investment towards it. And in the background, technology player like us will make sure that we give the full funnel marketing solutions to all brand agencies, so that they can easily look at what Nitin was saying about look at targeted audience, because for them reach is one of the metrics that they look at, and then of course they would like to do engagement. So once we do a proper content creation by various publishers, which I said is the backbone, and technology platform make sure that we enable that for any advertiser to make sure that they can reach out to right audience at right time, at right place with the right creative. So everything is like coming together in such a way that the entire ecosystem is evolving. Though, of course, as Sunil was mentioning about the certain we have walled gardens which trying to, take away a certain portion of the monetization amount from us. But I think still we have a decent amount of place to play around. And the kind of play which is happening, I think, is evolving in the right manner. You look at the content, you look at the way we are evolving towards the videos, you look at the way how programmatic is growing in the market. It's one of a very, very important perspective to see how, if you look at the data from a programmatic advertising growth, I think India is one of the market which is the top of all the markets going forward with itself. So the involvement is going forward, of course, and overall, I think the space will grow, and eventually it should be the overall pie of and the cake side should evolve. But I think end of the day, for us, basic partnership with signing with a partner, publisher partner is the one key point that we always look at, and then rest spending on technology and platform so that advisor can gain out of it. It's what the bottom line for the
So, I mean, like we discussed these key trends, like the last 1 year caused a lot of disruption. Now we are coming, we are moving with a very cautious, optimistic approach. We don't know how the situation is going to pan out. But will it be right to say that we have now understood where the things are moving? Are we sure about the direction that this is the direction that each of us, like from the industry, are supposed to take? Or are we still trying to understand or gauge this whole changing audience behavior?
If you ask me, it's always a dynamic field. So we have seen, so when pandemic started, we never knew that gaming can be such an important vertical for us at that scenario. Then we saw not only gaming, then we also saw in-app purchases within gaming that happens, from a rummy to poker to various news verticals. Now, for example, I'm sure Topper is here, so you can't miss about edutech. So edutech is one vertical that blown apart, like one of the best vendors in the market today. E-commerce, of course, in different directions. We see insurance has gone up, where people are now realizing, what is importance of any insurance, for it could be health insurance or medical insurance, whatever we do. And then, of course, with involvement of various hardware technology that include, for example, Dells of the world or Lenovo's of the world are, because everything is getting to digitalization phase. I think this, you cannot predict at any point of time. It is so dynamic that today we are talking right now and we are going back to office. Tomorrow we don't know that we go back to the same model where we, go back to look at the survival matrices again. So it's always evolving. It's just we have to make sure that we are adopted well. And now I think the entire digital ecosystem is, I will not say human race, of course, that we are adopting, that we keep adopting ourselves, has now came to a point that we are much more open to explore various opportunities which are at hand. Instead of saying, this is what, so today, for example, we are looking at next year plan or AOPs. So we are much more open to look at various perspective. If this is the direction, then we go this. It's more of algorithm that have come in place the way we are decisioning right now. So there's no one direction. So this is how we behave like this. We will behave like this. This is how we need to open ourselves. And eventually, it is so dynamic that you cannot predict everything end of the day.
Definitely. I think the last 1.5 years has taught us one thing, that we are ready to experiment. And if there's any new way that we'll try, maybe it'll work and maybe it not, but then we need to try. So we are anyways drawing to a close for this discussion, and the year is also closing. So how are you looking at things? Are the things looking up? I would really want to know from ABP, the publishing platform here. Newsroom has, I think, seen the most challenging period. So, Karan, how do you see the situation now, and how are you looking forward to it?
I think it's looking upward for us from a traffic perspective, from an impression inventory perspective, looking upward. Hopefully, monetization comes back upwards as well, because I think we have still to grow there. We have not grown after COVID. I think it's still nascent. I think TV has reached its peak. I think digital has to. So I think this will come by in a few months. Hopefully, we don't have a third wave. That's
definitely. Let's hope so.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's where traffic has always been. The behavior has always been good for news now, because considering everyone's work from home and people are anywhere, everywhere, so internet is going to grow. Usage of internet is going to grow. So that's why publishers are in for a treat from a traffic perspective, from an inventory perspective. But I think monetization is pressured still for digital, at least. We need to. I think there has to be some more ground covered there on monetization, but it will be better going forward. Diwali has been good, so I think hoping it will be better ahead.
Great. Karan, I just want to know one thing. Like, what is that one thing that you're really going to tap into in 2022 that you think that you learned in 2000?
So as Shonil and Shonil had actually pointed on content production, right? We are focusing on production and economies of scale. See, that's where the economy of scale for publisher lies, especially us being a video platform and internet being a text-heavy search platform. You see, we have more videos to give. We don't have more stories to give. So we have to add in the editorial, other than unlike any other publisher who is a print publisher. The stories we're trying to make sure that we have two desks, like a demand desk and one which is a curated desk. Curated desk is simple, that what we like, what we are, we want to portray through our editorial, and that's what we'll write, that's what we'll produce. And then free up the editorial time by doing automated stories for demand. So we're trying to build an automated infrastructure. So the stories of demand on keywords or on that, or any information-based stories can be automatically written depending on templates, so that we free up editorial time. So that's our main goal, making sure our CMSs are very robust in reducing workload on editorial, so that they protect our identity as an editorial team. So rather than, as Shoni rightly pointed out, we are too much algorithm driven, but brand is brand, and AVP has to be its brand. So we're trying to free up that time. So that's where our full focus will be.
So do you see yourself still juggling between that whole choice of quantity over quality?
It will always be in digital world till the time the walled gardens are there. We'll have to be there. So we'll have to suffice that digital demand always. But we're trying to make sure that more and more our editorial team doesn't get involved in all these things. We're trying to automate with templatizing news and information.
Yeah, no, we really hope that the editorial gets stronger with as the new changes come in. Shawnee, yes.
Listen, I'm very positive about the coming months, and not so much from any other reason. I've been in the market for about a week or so, meeting clients, advertisers, partners, etc. Especially on the advertiser side, this group, everyone feels that from the pre-COVID time to the post-COVID time, their digital budgets have gone up by 30-40%. So even if it's not that rosy, everyone seems to be in a mood to spend more on digital. But like Bharat said, and I think it was discussed a couple of times, now there are lots of caveats to this. Everything is ROI oriented, efficiency measurement, everything has to be measurable. So again, this circles back to more data and math and the complex side of this business. But holistically, I think the worst is behind us, and we're going to have a fantastic time. I think in the next conference, which we all do, will be face to face in some conference hall, and not I'm tired of these ones, and these are good, and I'm glad they
and not discuss the pandemic.
Yeah, and not discuss the pandemic. So did a lot of these during the pandemic, but I really miss the face to face. So I think business will be good. It'll be good to meet competitors, partners, and in person, and I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah. And what is that one trend that you see dominating 2022?
I think my opinion, where my revenue hat, I think everything will be ROI oriented. So that's one takeaway which everyone has. If an advertiser is spending $1, he will want $1's worth. The spray and pray days are over, unfortunately. But that's one. And I think content will continue to improve and evolve, even with all this snacky short format stuff. So there is a huge sort of market as well as responsibility for big news brands to continue to do what they do best. And I think that piece will also grow. And I come from a television network, so I could clearly see the shift in digital transformation. So in the large networks and the large media houses, clearly digital is now being put into the forefront of their effort. It's always been there, it's always been important, but I think more investments will flow into the digital businesses, and which is good for folks like us.
Yeah, like we are moving a little faster than we would have probably.
I agree.
Yes. So Bharat, are you also optimistic about things moving up?
Absolutely. The way things are shaping up, very optimistic that the kind of budget that we are seeing right now in digital. In fact, we see with trends like connected TV coming up in the picture, they will start eating up a lot of television budget as well. I think digital is to grow, and we are here to remain, and we make sure that we'll also push a lot of wall gardens to make sure that we make our own space. And one of the things that I also tend to see is your MarTech, your AdTech space will grow many folds because now advertisers have realized the potential of using various AdTech platforms, and they are ready to put in certain percentage of the money. Of course, not India still market will still be making sure that all our advertiser partners get more educated towards spending towards more of technology. And I think they have realized especially during last 1.8 years now, during the COVID period, they have realized it is very, very important to have that piece being investment more. So we see more of AdTech and MarTech platforms coming in picture. And baseline will always remain the same, that we have learned that it is very, very important to sail together, be together. So we did our publisher partners or advertisers. We are much more closer. Our bonding is much more. I think this will grow more eventually. I think if we did Outbrain or Taboola, or we make sure that we'll stand with our partners from publisher side and advisor side. We make sure that we'll push this together and to grow together.
That more collaborations are going to happen. But do you also see that is there some some challenge that we are still yet to really kind of address? Do you see that in the experiences that you've had so far in learning these new trends?
I think there's no life without challenges. Personal life or professional life. With challenges is always equal to opportunities. Definitely, we have a lot of challenges. The challenges is we still are struggling with the use of demand. Everybody's talking about data, and they're saying we still don't know actually how to use this data. So we are still learning. You still have to have a lot of use cases where we know how to do it. You use better. So I think we are learning a lot of challenges because our data is so scattered. For example, you go to US market towards that tech, you will see how beautifully the CRM data is being collaborated with first party data and third party data, and they're able to reach out to specific user much better way. Today in India, the data is so scattered. It is so we are sitting on mountains of data, but we don't know exactly how to use it in a better way. Either we are not ready to invest much. Second, of course, we are so many people that we still need to have investment in technology, and we should know that how to make this data much more better for us to use. And of course, as I said, with AdTech growing more, for example, we still will see a lot of technology companies like LiveTime of the world will come back to India. They will have their own collaboration between CRM data. So a lot of data is not talking to each other right now. As I said, there's always been challenges, and there's no life without challenges. We have to break a lot of barriers to grow, and with more challenges, there's more opportunities.
Definitely.
And yeah, so this is how a human race grow, and this is how advertising and digital advertising will also grow.
Yes, yes. I think resilience, yeah, is the key trait here. So Puneet, I think would like to know from you because Kantar has been actually tracking whatever that we are discussing. So what do you have to say on that?
So there are two things that I want to leave behind as as comments as such. One is indeed ROI is that much more important today. So therefore, the measurement of the impact is important, and that's something that advertisers are going to be looking to create mechanisms of testing what has been the impact delivered through messaging that has been put across as such. So that's something that is going to be very important. A lot of investment that's going to go into that space. But I think there is also another aspect that is developing, and I'm seeing a lot of traction there, which is to be able to integrate data sets. So market research, for example, answers a lot of why questions. So there is one which is understanding of the audience in terms of their profile, in terms of demographics, in terms of a variety of other characteristics as such. But there is also that element of understanding what is it that this person is likely to be using, what is it that this person really stands for in terms of lifestyles, and a whole host of such vectors that need to be understood. And increasingly, we are being posed questions around being able to integrate some of these why questions that we are answering better with the audience that exists in the large internet world as such. And that's something that is going to be making it sharper also for publishers to be able to offer their platform suitably to marketers as such in terms of defining what is it that their audience really stands for in terms of the brands that they consume, in terms of the lifestyle and values that they hold on to, and therefore who are the ones to be prioritized from a communication standpoint, and what should be the format or delivery as such. So there's going to be a lot more of such work that is going to happen. And 2022, therefore, is going to be a year where which we are really looking forward to. Lots of interesting things to do. We've already seen some early work that has happened, which has been very successful. Yeah, therefore, plenty to do in 2022, both around ROI as also around audience segmentation and sharper targeting of audiences.
Great, great. Yeah, so we hope that 2021 paves the road to recovery, and 2022 is the time when we actually hold in-person events and discuss all these key trends and positive trends, and maybe there'll be more collaborations which are anyways happening in 21, but we see them happening a lot more. Thank you so much. I really wanted to hear from Nitin as well. I think he had to leave because the actual boom is happening in the edtech space. But thank you so much for taking out time to be, part of this panel. It has been an, great discussion, and thank you once again. I'll just hand it over to Deenal here.
Thanks, Srishti. It was good to engage with the rest of the gang.
Yeah, and a very good luck to you for your new innings now. From publishing to Outbrain, I think it's going to be much more challenging.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah. I think Deenal is not here. So, but anyways, thank
No,
you. I think,
you can
yeah,
wrap.
I think we can drop. Yeah, thank you so much.
Hi, thank you
Okay,
everyone for this session, and I'm sorry for the delay. So now that brings us to the end of the Pubnation series, the next big search 2021. And once again, I would like to thank our media partners, Telechakkar.com, Radio and Music.com, and AnimationExpress.com. This event is produced and executed by ITV 2.0 Productions. On behalf of IndianTelevision.com Group, I would like to thank all the speakers and the viewers for taking out your time to join us today. We hope you had a fruitful time. Do share your feedback with us. Use the hashtag PubNation2021 in your post and tag our official handles. We can be found at ITV News on Twitter and Facebook and IndianTelevision.com on Instagram and LinkedIn. Have a nice evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.